Bum ba bum. Hello, my lovely, lovely Papa Cubs. That transition was so fast. I switched the transition thing to, I think it's the Animal Crossing map change motion. Here, look, I'll show you again. Woomph. Woomph. Oh, it's a little too fast, actually. Maybe I'm clicking it. Wait, hold on. Wow, here I am working inside a beautiful thingamajig. Nope. Why does it do that? It works like at 1 second and then it stops working. Oh well, we don't have to deal with that. Slacking off work to read, I see. Sorry I haven't been streaming. I was trying to fix some mic issues and hopefully I sound a little better now. I had the wonderful opportunity to talk with ID 10, I believe their name is. ID 10. Is that them? They do not exist. Wait, I got their username wrong. That's probably their username on Twitter. Oh, I see. Hashtag $RARG1 username stream game. Oh. I got distracted. I opened up Twitter briefly. Snicklefritz is speaking in tongues! He always speaks in tongues. But good news is, I think I have the stuff mostly sorted out. I'm still like really tweaking things with the mic because it winds up being like literally like the smallest tweak changes so much. I haven't like screamed in this mic settings yet really. So we'll see how distorted that gets eventually. Hopefully it sounds okay right now though. Tomorrow I will not be streaming. We can test it if you feel like it. We'll get there. We'll get there. Time to get Nona to play a horror game. Oh my gosh, that reminds me. I saw this new game. I guess it's actually an old game, but it's a game called Sonar something. Sonar. I think it's Sonaria. Google Spotlight stories? You can download Google Spotlight games? Oh my god. Google Inc? What the? Oh my god, you can play all of their like little Google games. They stopped making them after 2018 though. It looks like that was the height of their life. Anyways, I should have a stream where I play all the Google Spotlight stories. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, there was a horror game called Sonar something, and it was really cool. You're like in blackness, and the only way to like figure out what your surrounding is to use this sensor, and then it kind of like, it's almost like coloring in your surroundings, and you figure out where you are and like more details about the world. People say that it's like, it needs more of a plot, but I think the discovering is exciting. It reminded me a bit of like Outer Wilds type, figuring out things from context and specific stuff showing up. But now I can't remember the name. I remember seeing a game like that. That sounds neat. Yeah, I think it's only like $7. I think it also would be really cool to play in VR. The what game? Cordy, you once gifted me a game and it kind of spooks me. Because you said it was like a VN, but it was about cooking companions. Yeah, you gifted me this game, but your thing kind of scared me a little. It listens to your mic and you can connect sounds alert to it. Wow! A Michael Jackson horror game. We have to play Cooking Companions sometime. Apparently. There's a few. Cannibalism game? What? I also have Buried Stars to read or to play. I haven't actually explored any VNs on stream, have I? That sound should not be said with such enthusiasm. Would you consider Volcano? No, Volcano Princess. Volcano Princess was kind of a VN, but it was mostly strategy, I feel. I also have the I Was a Teenage Exocolonist, but that game was a little too complicated for my brain when I started playing it. Companions go into the pot and not help put stuff into the... What? Why? Oh, I have The Walking Dead. That's kind of like a VN. We still haven't finished that yet. I finished chapter 3, so we're on chapter 4, actually. All right, we also still need to do Sea of Thieves. Yeah, I still have Sea of Thieves. There's so much that we have to do still. Everything all the time. I want to play Ballad Wonderworld because I think it'll be funny. I want to play Drake Hollow. I want to play Endling. I want to play Gibeus. I want to play Hohokam. I want to play Katamari. I want to play Lost in Random. I want to play No Straight Roads Encore Edition. I want to finish RPG Time. I want to play Sherlock Holmes. We have to finish Subnautica. What Remains of Edith Finch. So many things. Do not help get rid of the pile of games. You made it double the worst. Edith Finch! I've only heard wonderful things about that game. How long is this game, by the way? November 29th, 2023. Lord Phil played What Remains of Edith Finch for the first time. Did you finish it in that one activity? I'm gonna snoop on your page. Favorite game? To the Moon. Is this the review you wrote? Wow. This is a very long review. It's so fanciful. I'm going to give you an award. My award is going to be a sneak. There. You're almost free from Rainworld? Actually, I was going to play Rainworld yesterday, and then I was really tired, so then I didn't. Do you mean you're almost free as in you've played everybody? 2013. Yeah, I'm halfway through Spearmaster. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's where I am. And I didn't do any of the others before that. The secret one. Oh yeah, the cool one. Isn't the secret one the one with the tongue? Is that the secret one? Really? Why does Spearmaster annoy you? Because you have to suck the juices from people? Is that why? No, that's Saint. Spoiler reasons. What? Spoiler reasons? I don't even get the spoiler reasons because I'm that far behind. Secret one is a challenge one, apparently. Oh. Is it the bomb one? Wait, you've already done the bomb one, probably. The Arcanist? Is that what it is? Arcanist. Arcanist. I forget how far you got. We just finished giving Moon the pearl. So Moon just gave us the new pearl with the new message that I have to go to the west and broadcast it. Or the east. Was it the east or the west? I got a pearl ripped out of my chest. Me too! That was fun, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, so the annoying thing is the novelty of holding 2 spears goes out the window after that. Because you can only hold 1, technically. Because you're holding 2. Unless you do what I was doing. Where I would teleport. I would use the passage. Yeah, I would use the passage because I died too many times. It's too hard. It's too hard for me. I don't know why I picked that one. Because I used a mod so that I have all of them unlocked. And I picked the Spearmaster out of all of them. Why did I pick the Spearmaster? Did I like to... I don't even remember. It was such a long time ago. So over a year ago now. Yikes. Yikes! Alright, guys. Spearmaster is apparently the first in the timeline. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Game backlogs being game backlogs. Yeah, it's true. Okay. So today is Warrior Cat Wednesday. We're not as far as I thought we were in this book. We're actually not even halfway, which I thought we were. Or maybe we are. No, we're not. Never mind. Just kidding. We're not halfway yet, so we have some work to do today. What happened last time? Last time, previously on Warrior Cat's Dark River, Heatherpaw. Oh, thank you for the hydrate, Mika! Have iced tea. Previously, Lionpaw. Oh yeah, so when we started last time, Lionpaw had just been called out from Hollypaw from seeing Heatherpaw, and then he was really grumpy. But then Heatherpaw broke in and, well, didn't break in. Heatherpaw woke him up one night because she was in their territory. And then she asked him to follow her to check out what she found. And she led him in this tunnel that opened up into this cave. And the cave had kind of like an opening at the top where light could come in. And there was a river in there. And it led to ThunderClan territory and it led to WindClan territory. So it was a really good place for them to meet up in secret. So they started meeting up there again. J-Paw went to the moon pool. He snooped in Willowpaw's brain dream. Found out that, well, he didn't find out exactly what happened, but the dream that he had was that they were in water. There was too much water and they were kind of drowning in the water. So that happened. Wait, was that gathering thing last time? I can't remember. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe that was in the last book. I honestly can't remember anymore. Oh yeah, it was at the end of the last book. Sorry. And then what happened? Oh yeah, he went to go tell Firestar again. Do I have the Twitch integration mod for Rain World? No, I don't. I didn't realize there was even one until you mentioned it. But I kind of want to now. So after that, yeah, so they told Firestar about River Clan being in like distress, and Firestar was like, why do you keep getting dreams about other clans and not our clans? It's none of our business. And so they decided they weren't going to do anything. And even Leafpool was a bit like, sir, are you sure, Dad? Like, are you sure we should not do anything? And he was like, yes, okay, leave it. And so J-Paw's kind of like grumpy. He told Hollypaw what he dreamt, that Firestar isn't going to do anything, and then she was a little bit troubled about that. And then there was Hollypaw, Hollypaw, Cinderpaw, and one of the other paws. Breezepaw, maybe? I don't know. One of the other apprentices were doing a assessment, like an apprentice assessment where they were going to go catch some stuff, and that one here. Actually, let me go figure it out. Who was it? Let's see. Mousepaw. So Mousepaw could only ever catch, I think, mice and stuff, and he's been unable to catch squirrels, so he wanted to prove to his mentor that he was gonna catch a squirrel, and so he was gonna climb the sky oak, and so he started climbing it, and then he got too high, and then he got stuck and scared, and then instead of being smart and getting Cloudtail, who has been confirmed by the narrative that he is the best climber in all of ThunderClan, they got Cinderpaw, an apprentice, to climb up after him and help him down. And so they made it pretty far down, and then I think a bird shrieked or something and spooked them, and then Cinderpaw lost her footing, and she fell all the way down in a terrible puddle of her own body. And they rushed her back home, and she happened to break the leg that Cinderpelt, who we find out Cinderpaw is reincarnated Cinderpelt. So Cinderpelt was previously the medicine cat of ThunderClan. When she was little, when she was an apprentice, she got hit by a car and her leg got all twisted. And so she couldn't be a warrior, and so she became a medicine cat, and so she was the medicine cat, and then Leafpool was her apprentice, and then she died while Sorreltail was giving birth by a badger. And it's kind of like implied that the second that Cinderpelt died, Sorreltail gave birth to Cinderpaw. And that was like the new, that's her again. And so sometimes she says things that are more mature because she has like past experiences that she doesn't quite remember. Like she'll be like, oh, I don't like badgers, they're the worst. And then everyone's like, Cinderpaw, you've never met a badger in your life. And she's like, huh, you're right. And so she was like all like wounded and stuff, and Leafpool was really upset about it, understandably, because she broke the leg that was twisted in her previous life, and she thought that, she was gonna be condemned to the same path. But J-Paw went and he entered her dreams while she was passed out, and Cinderpaw was kind of like, I guess when she's sleeping, she realizes she's Cinderpelt, but when she's awake, she doesn't remember what she dreamt or that she even felt that way, I guess. So when she was dreaming, she showed J-Paw their old camp, gave him a little tour, and then gave Leafpool a message. Or told J-Paw to give Leafpool a message, and then he didn't even give it to her, which is funny. He didn't even give her the message that she gave him. And then, but after he like came out of the dream, her breathing was back to normal. He tends to do that when like somebody's like breathing really badly. He'll enter their dreams and kind of like calm them down. And then, I mean, while sleeping, they would be closer to StarClan, right? Yeah. You know what? That makes sense. You're right, Cordy. You're so logical. And then, yes, and then that's kind of where we were at. J-Paw was talking to Leafpool, and then Leafpool confirmed that Cinderpaw was Cinderpelt, and then Cinderpaw wakes up, and then she's like, where am I? And then he's like, you're exactly where you belong, in ThunderClan. So beautiful. And that's where we left off. So we're going to try to read another 100 pages, which would take us to like 230. Maybe even like a little bit more, because the next time we can completely finish. So yes, okay, let's begin. Chapter 8. I name you Lionclaw, warrior of DarkClan. Lionpaw flexed his claws as Heatherpaw called down to him from the highest ledge in the cave. Moonlight, streaming through the gap in the roof, felt silver on her pelt. She leaped down and touched her nose to his. Congratulations! Leafpaw's fur tingled. But first, Heatherpaw's blue eyes flashed in the half-light. You have to prove yourself a warrior by outrunning me. That's not fair. Lionpaw flicked his tail. WindClan cats are really fast. Everyone knows that. If you want to be a DarkClan warrior, you've got to be as fast as me. In that case, Lionpaw launched himself at her, stretching his paws around her to soften her fall, but pinning her to the ground. You've got to prove you're as strong as me. Hey, that's cheating. You didn't warn me, she mewed. The leader of DarkClan must be prepared for anything. Like this? She slithered from his grasp, darted behind him as fast as a blink, and grabbed his tail gently but firmly between her teeth. Hey! He yelped, trying to reach around and swipe her away. She dodged and he found himself swiping at thin air. His tail still held firm. He twisted the other way, trying to reach her, but she dodged again. He could hear a rumbling in her throat, and her whiskers were twitching. She let go. You look so funny flapping your paws around, like a fledgling just out of its nest. Lionpaw stared at her, happiness welling in his chest. Just the sight of her blue eyes and soft fur made warmth surge beneath his pelt. I wish you were in ThunderClan. She shuddered. Under all those trees and closed in by stone walls? No thanks. Besides, she went on, we don't need to live in the same clan when we've got this cave all to ourselves. She reached out a paw and batted something from the fur behind his ear. Just a burr. She flicked it to the ground. Thanks. Heatherpaw was right about the cave. Lionpaw knew he wouldn't want to live on a moorland any more than she'd want to live in the forest. This cave was the perfect solution. They'd been meeting there for half a moon now, and none of his clanmates suspected a thing, not even his nosy sister. I wonder where some of these other tunnels lead. Heatherpaw leaped over the river and began to sniff at one of the openings. Lionpaw jumped after her. Dank, stale air seeped from the tunnel, and he shivered. Do you think one leads into ShadowClan territory? Heatherpaw wondered. The fur along Lionpaw's spine lifted. I hope not. We could explore. Lionpaw backed away. There's no hurry. We have enough fun here. He glanced around the cave. Getting here still made his paws quiver. There was something spooky about the tunnels, and he was always relieved to find Heatherpaw waiting for him in the moonlit cave. Heatherpaw's eyes sparkled. There might be all sorts of terrible creatures down there with big teeth and sharp claws. Lionpaw nudged her. Shut up! She darted away. Come on, she called. You still have to prove you're a warrior. She crossed the river with a graceful leap. Lionpaw dived after her. As he landed, his hind paws slipped backwards into the dark water. The splash echoed around the cave. Lionpaw's heart lurched as he felt the strong tug of the current, and he scrambled forward, shaking droplets from his paws. "Careful," Heatherpaw warned. "I don't want to lose you." Lionpaw gulped at the thought of being dragged away into the tunnels by the river. Seeking comfort in Silverpelt, he glanced up at the gap in the roof. The sky outside was lightning. "We have to go." Heatherpaw sighed. "Tomorrow night?" Lionpaw mewed hopefully. "Can't." Heatherpaw wove around him, brushing her light tabby pelt against his. "I have a training assessment the day after. I don't want to be too tired." "Okay." Lionpaw shrugged. He understood. She had to put her clan first. But he would still miss her. "Bye." They hurried away, each to their separate tunnel. Lionpaw was relieved that he knew the path well enough now to be able to run all the way. Jaypaw would be surprised to know how fast his brother could race through the blackness, using only his whiskers to guide him. He burst from the entrance, relieved to smell the fresh air once more. "This is my part of the forest." He wiggled happily under the brambles and pulled himself out the other side. The older warriors acted like they had created ThunderClan territory because they had brought the clans to the lake, but Lionpaw knew that they hadn't explored every paw step of it yet. The fact that he knew about the cave proved that there was still places left to find. It would be the young cats who would do that, who would make this land their own. Through the leaves he could see that the star-studded sky was glowing pale. He began to race through the forest. He had to get home before the camp woke. "Greetings, Lionpaw." A deep mew sounded in his ear, and fur brushed his flank. Lionpaw bristled with alarm. He glanced sideways and saw the faint outline of a cat keeping pace with him. "Am I dreaming?" "We have been watching you." The outline shimmered beside him, a huge tabby tom with amber eyes which shone in the half-light. The tom's massive shoulders seemed strangely familiar. Something brushed his other flank. Lionpaw turned, his heart pounding. Another shadowy cat was running beside him. A second tabby tom with icy blue eyes, but the same massive shoulders. Who are you?" he stammered. "We are kin," answered the amber-eyed tom. Lionpaw glanced anxiously from one to the other. "Are you from StarClan?" "We were warriors once," the blue-eyed tom growled. Lionpaw's tail prickled. "Tiger Star? Hawkfrost?" Why had they come to him? Hawkfrost stiffened, jerking his huge head around to stare away into the forest. "Someone's coming," he warned. Lionpaw ducked behind a hazel tree. Paw steps beat the forest floor. Real, solid paw steps, as Lionpaw crouched, hardly daring to breathe. Spiderleg raced past, stirring the air so that it tugged at Lionpaw's pelt. The long, limp black tom bounded away, disappearing into a swath of ferns. Lionpaw crept out from behind the hazel. "Tiger Star?" He glanced around. "Hawkfrost?" The ghostly warriors had gone. "Wait!" Lionpaw called out in a whisper. "Come back!" He had to know why they had chosen to appear to him. The ferns rustled where Spiderleg had disturbed them. Then the forest floor fell silent, except for the call of the birds, heralding the dawn. Lionpaw crept, yawning, through the dirt-placed tunnel. The camp lay in silence. Relief flooded his paws, then guilt. Away from Heatherpaw's side, he was suddenly aware how sneaky he was being. No cat was up, no sign of the dawn patrol prepared to leave yet. He shouldn't feel so pleased that he'd been able to creep to his nest unnoticed and get some much-needed sleep. He scooted around the edge of the clearing, clinging to the shadows, then slipped into the apprentice den. Stepping lightly, he began to tiptoe towards his nest. Lionpaw? Hollypaw lifted her head. "Is that you?" Panic seared his paws, then irritation. "Yes," he hissed. "Where are you going?" She yawned. Lionpaw hesitated. He couldn't use the dirt place excuse again. She'd think he was ill. "Dawn Patrol," he answered quickly. Hazelpaw sat up groggily and blinked. "I thought I was doing that with Honeypaw." "I'm coming too," Lionpaw mewed. "Just for the experience." His pelt burned. So many lies. Hollypaw tucked her nose back under her paw. "Rather you than me," she murmured. "We better get a move on." Hazelpaw prodded Honeypaw. "Wake up, sleepyhead. It's time to go." Lionpaw glanced longingly at his nest, his paws as heavy as stones, but Hazelpaw was already brushing past him, leading the way out of the den. He padded after her, leaving Honeypaw stretching in her nest. "Hi, Jarn." "You're up early, Lionpaw." Sandstorm, sitting by the entrance with Dustpelt, looked surprised to see him. "I wanted to join the patrol," Lionpaw mewed. "Good for you." Dustpelt looked up at the clear dawn sky. "It's going to be a great day for hunting. I think I'll take Hazelpaw out again once we've checked the borders." Birds twittered noisily at the top of the ravine. Lionpaw shifted a yawn and stretched. "Are you ready, Honeypaw?" Sandstorm asked. Her apprentice was stumbling from the den, blinking the sleep from her eyes. Honeypaw nodded. "Come on, then." Sandstorm padded out of the camp. Back on into the forest, Lionpaw gazed longingly at every patch of moss, wishing he could lie down and rest. He trotted after the patrol, trying not to trail too far behind as they followed the Shadow Clan border, renewing the scent markers. "All clear here," Dustpelt meowed at last. "Great, now we can go home." Sandstorm sniffed the air. "Let's check the Wind Clan border." Lionpaw's heart sank. The patrol turned and headed back through the forest. Lionpaw felt his eyes glazing with tiredness. Suddenly a movement caught his eye. Far off through the trees, something was stirring. Tiger Star! He scanned the forest, but it was only a fern flickering in the light breeze. Why had they come to him that morning? Tiger Star had said they'd been watching him. They must know I've been meeting Heatherpaw. His paws tingled. Did they think he was doing something wrong? But they had warned him about Spiderleg. Perhaps they only wanted to help him? But why? The patrol neared WindClan's territory. A small gully marked the border, a stream trickling at the bottom between tangles of ferns and brambles. Beyond it, the forest stretched further before opening into the moorland. Dustpelt stopped to mark a tree. Honeypaw clambered down into the gully for a drink, disappearing beneath the thick brambles. Hazelpaw stiffened. "Look!" she mewed, staring over the border. Breezepaw and Hairpaw were pelting towards the stream. Ahead of them raced a squirrel, its tail bobbing. The WindClan apprentices weaved skillfully through the thick undergrowth. It was strange to see them hunting in woodland. Dustpelt padded to Sandstorm's side. "Why are they hunting here?" "It is their territory," Sandstorm pointed out. "But WindClan doesn't eat squirrels," Honeypaw hadn't scrambled up from the stream, alerted by Hazelpaw's warning. Dustpelt narrowed his eyes. "Yes, I thought they only hunted rabbits." Two more WindClan pelts appeared. Tornir and Whitetail were watching their apprentices from the edge of the moor. "A hunting party so near our border?" Dustpelt's mew was sharp with suspicion. "They're still headed towards us," Hazelpaw warned. Breezepaw and Hairpaw pelted after the squirrel. Their eyes were fixed on their quarry. "They're not slowing down," Dustpelt warned. "They won't cross the border on purpose," Sandstorm reassured him. "But they might do it accidentally," Dustpelt replied. "The stream's hardly visible here." He dropped into a crouch and crept to the edge of the gully, ducking behind the brambles that covered it. Breezepaw and Hairpaw's pads thumped against the ground as they hurled nearer. They still weren't slowing down. "Stop!" Dustpelt reared up and yowled across the stream at the WindClan apprentices. Breezepaw and Hairpaw skidded to a halt, their eyes wide with alarm. The squirrel leaped the gully and disappeared up a tall birch. "What in the name of StarClan are you doing?" Tornir's angry mew rang through the trees. The WindClan warrior broke into a run, racing down to the border with Whitetail on his heels. "How dare you frighten our apprentices!" Tornir halted at the edge of the gully and glared at Dustpelt. "They were about to cross the border." Dustpelt arched his back aggressively. "How do you know?" hissed Breezepaw. "You weren't even slowing down," Dustpelt accused him. "I'd have caught the squirrel in one more stride." Lionpaw curled his lips. "You were nowhere near it." Breezepaw bristled. "Was too." "Everyone knows WindClan can only catch rabbits," Lionpaw spat back. "ThunderClan are the best squirrel hunters." "Not anymore." Hairpaw squared his shoulders beside his denmate. "Every WindClan apprentice has special training in the woods, so we don't have to rely on rabbits anymore." Sandstorm's eyes grew round. "Really? Why?" Tornir turned his glittering gaze on her. "It's none of your business." "Is it so you can invade our territory?" Dustpelt paced the border, tail lashing. Whitetail stepped forward. Her ruffled fur smoothing. "We have woodland in our territory," she meowed evenly. "It makes sense to use it, and we don't want to depend on one sort of prey anymore. The elders still speak of the hunger WindClan suffered when Two Legs started poisoning the rabbits before the great journey." That made sense. Lionpaw let his claws curve back into their sheaths, but it still felt odd to think of WindClan hunting ThunderClan prey. Hairpaw was nodding. "There are sheep on the moorland too now, with Two Legs and their dogs." Tornir silenced his apprentice by flicking his tail across his mouth. "That's none of ThunderClan's business either," he snapped. "So long as we stay on our side of the border, we can hunt what we like." "But squirrels don't know about the border. They cross over it. You'd be eating our prey." "If it's on WindClan territory, it becomes our prey," Tornir snapped. "Squirrels have always been ThunderClan prey." Dustpelt stopped pacing and let the fur stand up on his neck. "Is that part of the warrior code?" sneered Tornir. He took a step forward, his eyes glittering. Dustpelt dropped into a crouch, ready to spring. Blood pounded in Lionpaw's ears. He unsheathed his claws again, his tiredness forgotten. He was more than ready to show these pushy WindClan cats what happened to warriors who dared invade ThunderClan hunting grounds. "Leave it," Whitetail murmured to her clanmate. "This isn't worth losing fur over." Tornir dragged his gaze from Dustpelt and looked at Whitetail. Lionpaw held his breath. Then Tornir nodded. "Okay, for now." Dustpelt watched through narrowed eyes as the WindClan cats turned and padded away along the border, deliberately not hurrying. "Come on." Sandstorm flicked her tail towards home. Dustpelt didn't move. "Not until they've left the trees." Sandstorm sat down and began to wash her face. "You three might as well see if you can find any prey to take back while we are waiting." Lionpaw reluctantly stopped watching the dawdling WindClan patrol and followed Honeypaw and Hazelpaw over to a patch of brambles. "Do you think WindClan are planning to evade?" Hazelpaw whispered. Honeypaw's eyes stretched wide. "What makes you think that?" "Chasing squirrels is what the forest cats do." "But they're moorland cats," Hazelpaw mewed. "That's a bit suspicious." "Well, Dustpelt's acting like they are," Lionpaw commented. Honeypaw glanced back over her shoulder. "But why would they want to take over our territory?" "Perhaps the Two Legs and their dogs are more of a problem for WindClan than we realized," Lionpaw suggested. "They coped with it last New Leaf," Hazelpaw pointed out. Foreboding clawed at Lionpaw's belly. "It might be worse this time." "Anything to report?" Firestar called down from the high ledge as the dawn patrol padded into camp. "WindClan are hunting in the forest," Dustpelt answered. "In our forest?" Firestar leaped down from the ledge. Lionpaw padded quickly over to the fresh kill pile and dropped the mouse he had caught, then hurried back to join Dustpelt. He was ready to defend his clan's prey from any marauding WindClan cats. But what if one of those cats was Heatherpaw? "Lionpaw!" Hollypaw stopped him halfway. "What's going on?" Jaypaw was with her, his ears pricked with interest. "WindClan were at the border," Lionpaw explained. He glanced at the patrol. The ThunderClan leader had reached Dustpelt in Sandstorm. He was lashing his tail, clearly disturbed by Dustpelt's news. "They hadn't crossed the border," Sandstorm explained. The tip of Dustpelt's tail twitched. "They almost did." Brambleclaw emerged from the warrior's den. "What's going on?" "Two WindClan apprentices near our border," Sandstorm meowed. "They were chasing a squirrel and nearly crossed the stream by mistake." Hollypaw bristled. "A squirrel!" "They should have known better," Dustpelt growled. "Unless they're so used to crossing the stream by mistake they don't notice anymore." "There was no scent of WindClan in our territory," Sandstorm reminded him. "But why is WindClan chasing squirrels?" Brambleclaw demanded. "They hunt rabbit." Hollypaw hissed into Lionpaw's ear. "Exactly!" "Not anymore." Hazelpaw kneaded the ground. "Breezepaw said that all the WindClan apprentices are being trained to hunt in the woodland now." Brambleclaw stiffened. "We must remark the borders," he meowed. "We've already done that," Dustpelt told him. Sandstorm sat down. "Let's not make a big thing about this. It was just two young cats." Dustpelt cut her off. "Hunting our prey!" "We should be on our guard," Brambleclaw advised. "It needs to be reported at the next gathering." Firestar plucked at the ground. "Did any WindClan cats cross the border?" "No," Sandstorm replied. "And there was definitely no scent of WindClan cats on our side of the stream," Firestar pressed. "None." Bespelt snorted. The rain must have washed it clean. Or they've never crossed the border, Firestar pointed out. I can't tell WindClan what to hunt on their own territory. He turned away. We'll leave it for now and see what happens. Japon narrowed his eyes. Not again, he muttered. Linepaw glanced at his brother. What do you mean? Firestar didn't want to help RiverClan either. Oh, sorry, that wasn't J-Paw. Firestar didn't want to help RiverClan either, Hollypaw explained, even though J-Paw dreamt that they were in trouble. How are the clans going to respect us if we never do anything? J-Paw complained. Lionpaw frowned. Does it matter? So long as none of them cross our border. But there must be a balance, Hollypaw protested. If one clan is too weak, we should help them. If one is too strong, we must react so we look strong as well. J-Paw scowled. I don't know about balance, he mewed. It just seems like Firestar wasted another chance to make ThunderClan look as if we can take care of ourselves. Flicking his tail, he patted away. Hollypaw stared after him. What do you think, Lionpaw? Lionpaw stiffened, suddenly picturing Heatherpaw chasing a squirrel towards the ThunderClan border. Was Hollypaw wondering the same? What do I think about what? He stalled. Should Firestar challenge WindClan at the next gathering? Hollypaw tipped her head to one side. Her clear green gaze was curious. Linepaw shifted his paws, uncertain what to think about his leader's decision. If Firestar ignored every problem, ThunderClan might look weak, but the thought of fighting WindClan made his stomach churn. How could he go on meeting Heatherpaw if their clans were at war? Suddenly, a breeze ruffled his fur and a voice murmured in his ears. Be honest, Lionpaw. Don't be afraid of the things you desire. You know what you think. Lionpaw's belly twisted with guilt, but Tigerstar was right. He knew exactly what he thought. A battle with WindClan was the last thing he wanted. We should leave WindClan alone, he mewed. Chapter 9. I just remembered, in the middle of that chapter, there was one part I missed about the summary. So Brooke, no wait, not Brooke, it was Millie. Millie was finally awarded that... basically like awarded ThunderClan Warrior. Thank you for the head pat. She was deemed a ThunderClan Warrior. And so right before Firestar was about to rename her, she cut him off and was like, hey, I want to keep my name. And then Brooke and Daisy, who are also not ThunderClan, or they are ThunderClan warriors, but they haven't accepted a warrior name. They were also like, yeah, we also don't want to change our names. And then there was a little bit of like a split decision, like, hey, they need to have, like, if they're gonna stay with us, they should, adopt our ways, which is having a warrior cat name. But then others were like, well, what does it matter? And then Hollypaw was getting really anxious because it was part of the warrior code. And she didn't like that ThunderClan weren't following it to a T. She was worried that StarClan was going to get mad at them and stuff like that. Like, why should we, like, if we do this, why shouldn't we break other rules? Stuff like that. So that's why she's a little bit like... when she started freaking out about like how... like arguing with kids, yeah. When she started freaking out about how like WindClan was eating squirrels because they don't eat squirrels, I remembered that part. She likes very status quo type behavior. She wants everything to be very precise, it seems. Chapter 9. Relatable. I like rules. Rules are nice. I like rules in like work settings because it gives me something to like base myself off of. Like, these are the things I should reach towards and the things that I should avoid doing, stuff like that. But I don't get anxiety when, like, they're broken. Chapter 9. The full moon rippled on the surface of the lake, while clouds billowed on the horizon, gray against the blue-black sky. Hollypaw shivered as she trekked around the shore to the gathering. A cold wind was ruffling her pelt the wrong way, tugging at her downy fur. She ducked between Squirrelflight and Brakenfur to hide from the chill. "It'll be warmer on the island," Squirrelflight promised, flattening her ears against the breeze. Spiderleg and Mousepaw padded ahead, Dustpelt, Brambleclaw, and Squirrelflight beside them, while Thornclaw kept pace with Whitewing, brushing close against her as though shielding her from the wind. Firestar and Sandstorm headed the party, while Lionpaw trailed behind with Ashfur and Leafpool. As they followed the edge of the lake, small waves slapped the shore, and further out, foamy crests glowed in the moonlight. Dang, J-Paw's not here? J-Paw's like never here. He's probably with Cinderpaw. "Get off there!" Brambleclaw's impatient command rose above the wind. Hollypaw slipped out of her sheltered spot to see who he was yowling at. Berrypaw was padding along a log lying on the shallows. A gust of wind whipped in from the lake, flattening Hollypaw's whiskers against her face. Through narrowed eyes, she watched as Berrypaw lost his balance and fell with a splash into the water. He fought his way to his paws and, shaking the water from his creamy pelt, raced back up the shore to join his clanmates. Brambleclaw cuffed him around the ear. "That was a mouse-brained thing to do." Berrypaw sneezed. Don't think you're missing any training if you've caught a cold." The sour smell of horseplace tainted the breeze as the cats neared the end of WindClan territory. The pebbly shore was narrow here, and the wind was blowing spray over it. Firestar led the party up onto the soft grass, skirting the fence. Beyond it, the horses were whining and whinnying in their field. Hollypaw felt a shiver of unease as she gazed at the great dark shape shifting beyond the fence. Perhaps they don't like the weather either. The squally wind promised rain, and plenty of it. Thud! A horse stomped its foot close to the fence. Whitewing yowled in surprise, leaping sideways in alarm. She careered into Mousepaw, sending him tumbling down onto the pebbly shore. "Watch out!" he spat, scrambling to his paws. Whitewing stared down at him, appalled. I'm sorry." "Why is everyone so jumpy and cross?" Hollypaw gazed around at her clanmates. Few words had passed between them since they had left the camp. Their fur was spiked against the wind, their tails flicking. She felt uneasy herself. Ever since WindClan had been discovered hunting squirrels, there had been rumors of prey stealing and revenge and worries about invasion. Hollypaw wasn't convinced that WindClan's strange behavior had to end in battle. The warrior code didn't say what clans could and couldn't hunt, but she hated the tense atmosphere, and she was still worried about RiverClan. There had been no news since J-Paw's dream at Half Moon. She was desperate to speak to Willowpaw tonight, but her paws pricked with anxiety. What if things were so bad RiverClan didn't come at all? Lionpaw brushed against her as she followed Brambleclaw down the sandy bank, back onto the shore. "I wish I stayed in camp with J-Paw," he mewed. She glanced at him. That didn't sound like Lionpaw. He looked sleepy. "Are you okay?" "Didn't he even want to see if Heatherpaw was going to be there?" "Just tired," he mewed. "Ashfur's been training me hard." Puttifer was relieved by his lack of interest in the WindClan apprentice. He must have put his friendship with her behind him at last. "Hi, Nostrial!" But still, it was strange that he'd rather be stuck in camp than going to a gathering. Dustpelt halted in front of them, ears pricked. "WindClan," he warned. Hollypaw saw a swarm of dark shapes moving against the heather, headed down towards the shore. "Do you think Firestar will mention the squirrel hunting tonight?" Lionpaw shrugged. "Who knows?" The WindClan cat streamed onto the shore a little ahead of ThunderClan, and headed onto the marshy shore of RiverClan territory. Hollypaw wrinkled her nose as muddy water squelched beneath her claws. Firestar had veered closer to the water, hurrying his clan forward so that they pulled ahead of WindClan. "Squirrel thieves!" Dustpelt muttered, glancing sideways at the WindClan cats. "Squirrel thieves!" Berrypaw echoed more loudly. The insult rippled through the ThunderClan party until it rang above the blustering wind. Hollypaw tensed. They couldn't fight tonight. She glanced warily at the WindClan cats. Tornier's eyes blazed in the moonlight. Fairypaw curled his lip in a menacing scowl, but One Star padded calmly on, eyes fixed on the fallen tree ahead. He reached it first, but signaled with a flick of his tail for his clan to step back. They watched with glittering eyes as Firestar led ThunderClan past and jumped onto the tree bridge. Firestar gazed down at the WindClan leader. "Thank you, One Star." One Star dipped his head. The ThunderClan cats filed across the tree bridge. When Hollipaw's turn came to scramble up through the tangle of roots, she caught the first scent of RiverClan. It was strong, fresh scents mingled with stale. "They're here!" Relief flooded over her pelt. Things couldn't be too bad if they'd made it to the gathering. She picked her way along the gnarled trunk and leapt down to the shore. Needing to stand beneath the pebbles to keep warm, she waited for Ashfur and Leafpool to follow. "Is everyone over?" Firestar meowed. Brambleclaw nodded. Firestar signaled with his tail and plunged into the undergrowth. Hollipawd darted after him into the brambles. "I must speak to Willowpaw." A barb stabbed her nose, but she pushed on into the softer ferns and emerged ahead of her clanmates. The clearing was packed! Gray pelts glowed in the moonlight like stones among tortoiseshells and brown pelts. Striped fur mingled with molted, large toms, slender she-cats, lithe young cats. Some sat in groups exchanging hushed words. Some lay at the edges gazing warily around. Small cats wove around larger cats. Some so small Hollipawd could hardly believe they were old enough to be apprentices. She sniffed the air. No sign of ShadowClan. How come there's so many RiverClan cats here? Lionpaw had caught up to her. He sounded out of breath. Hollipawd shook her head. Her pelt was bristling with unease. Every cat in the clearing was RiverClan. "Some of them are a bit too old to be here." Lionpaw was staring at a thick-set tabby tom, whose muzzle was speckled with white whiskers. A dark tabby she-cat sat beside him, her fur matted as though she could no longer wash herself properly. "Swallowtail!" A very young cat was hurrying towards the elderly she-cat. Its eyes were wide with fear. "I can't find Grey Mr. Sneezekit." "Oh, it's a baby." Don't worry, Mallowkit." Shallowtail swept her tail around the little cat. "Your mother will be back in a moment. Sneezekit is probably with her." "Did she say kit?" Lionpaw asked in surprise. Hollipawd didn't reply. She was staring at Willowpaw. The RiverClan apprentice was laying out some herbs in front of a heavily pregnant queen. Alarm flashing in her paws, Hollipawd zigzagged through the busy clearing to Willowpaw's side. "What's going on?" Willowpaw looked up, her eyes filled with panic. "Hollipawd! What in StarClan has happened?" Before Willowpaw could answer, WindClan burst into the clearing. Mews of surprise rippled from them as they squeezed among the RiverClan cats. "Grey Mist! Grey Mist!" A tiny tortoiseshell kit was wailing in the middle of the chaos. "Sneezekit! What are you doing away from your mother?" Swallowtail darted forward and plucked the tiny kid in her jaws. She winced as though the weight were too heavy for her, stiffed limbs, and padded back to Mallowkit. "Why are there kids and elders here, Willowpaw?" Hollipawd turned back to her friend. "We had to—" Firestar's mew cut her off. "Leopardstar, what's going on?" The ThunderClan leader was padding towards the great oak, where Leopardstar sat among the roots. One Star was hurrying across the clearing. It looks like you've brought the whole of RiverClan," he growled. Leopardstar blinked. "I have." "What?" One Star stumbled to a halt beside her, eyes wide. Hollipawd leaned forward. What had happened to RiverClan? Blackstar's angry mew sounded from the edge of the clearing. "What's going on here?" ShadowClan had arrived. Firestar plucked at the earth. "Let's start the meeting, then we can all find out." He leaped onto the lowest branch of the oak, Leopardstar following. Blackstar and One Star climbed up beside him. Below, the clans jostled as they struggled to find space to settle. Willowpaw stayed beside the pregnant cat. "Is everything all right?" Hollipawd hissed. "Join your clanmates." Willowpaw pawed at the ball of herbs, avoiding her friend's gaze. "Please." Hollipawd nodded and fell in behind the group of RiverClan warriors padding towards the oak. Their heads were high, their tails flicking fretfully. A gray RiverClan queen pushed past her, headed in the other direction. "Sorry." Hollipawd swerved out of her way, but the queen didn't seem to notice her. "Grey Mist! You're here!" Swallowtail's mew was filled with relief as the queen reached her. The kits hurried to greet their mother, but Grey Mist shooed them back and followed Swallowtail to a clump of ferns where RiverClan elders and kits were already sheltering. Their eyes glowed warily from the shadows. Hollypaw hurried to join her clanmates. Berrypaw flinched as she squeezed past him. "Watch my tail!" "Careful!" Dustpelt warned as she stepped on his paw. "Sorry!" Hollypaw slid gingerly around Lionpaw, making sure she only put her feet on solid ground. "Do you find out anything?" he hissed. "No." "Just sit down and keep quiet," Breakenfur ordered. Hollypaw blinked a silent apology and looked up at Leopardstar. The RiverClan leader gazed steadily from the oak. A kit wailed and was quickly silenced. "We have a small problem on RiverClan territory," Leopardstar began. "Small?" Hollypaw's heart pounded. "Then why are you all here?" "We had to leave our camp." "Leave your camp?" Blackstar's eyes glittered with interest. "Only for a short time," Leopardstar mewed quickly. We're sorting the trouble out. We shall move back as soon as it's fixed. Until then, we'll be staying on the island." "What about gatherings?" Hollypaw glanced up anxiously at Silverpelt. "Gatherings were governed by the warrior code. They took place on land shared equally by the clans. Surely this broke with the tradition laid down by their ancestors." "Where are you hunting?" One Star stared accusingly at the RiverClan leader. Russet first stood up, the fur prickling along her spine. "There can't possibly be enough food on the island for a whole clan." Leopardstar glared at the Shadow Clan deputy. "We have the lake." "Is that enough?" Crowfeather called. "What will you do when you have fished out the shallow waters around the island?" Mistyfoot bristled. "We're not eating rabbit, if that's what you're worried about." The RiverClan deputy curled her lip, as though rabbit was the last thing she'd dream of swallowing. "What about gatherings?" Firestar gazed calmly at Leopardstar. "We hope to be back in our camp by the next full moon," Leopardstar meowed. "And what if you're not?" Blackstar demanded. "It's not fair if you outnumber every other clan at the gathering." Thornclaw stood up. "No cat has ever lived at 4 Trees," he pointed out. It was special to all the clans, like Mothermouth." Leopardstar met his gaze. "We would not be doing this if we had another option." "What if you can never return to your camp?" One Star's claws scratched along the bark underneath him. "Where will you go then?" "Will you move into our territory? Will you invade another clan's land?" Anxious mews sounded from the clearing. Leopardstar's gaze swept the cats. "You are worrying about something that will never happen." Blackstar's tail was twitching. "But what if it does?" he hissed. 3 territories can't support 4 clans," One Star meowed. Smokefoot, a Shadow Clan warrior, lifted his head. "One clan will have to go." Silence gripped the clearing. Nervous glances flashed from one cat to another. Hollypaw's belly tightened. Could one clan really be driven from the lake? No, there had to be 4 clans. That was the way it was meant to be. "We have to believe Leopardstar." Firestar's mew rang over the clearing. "We must give RiverClan a chance to return to their territory." "At least until the next gathering," Sandstorm put in. The clans muttered, but no cat argued. Firestar nodded. "If RiverClan is still living on the island next full moon, we can decide what to do." He stared at the other leaders. "Does that seem fair?" Blackstar nodded curtly. One Star flicked his tail. "I guess," he muttered. "Then it's settled." Firestar gazed out over the clans. "The Underclan has little to report. One of our apprentices was wounded, but she is recovering well." He glanced at One Star. "And Newleaf has brought plenty of prey to the forest." Hollypaw dug her claws into the earth. "He's hinting about the squirrels." One Star narrowed his eyes. "WindClan is healthy, and prey is running well on our lands, too." Hollypaw felt Berrypaw's breath ruffle her ear. "He said prey, not rabbits," he whispered fiercely. "Why doesn't Firestar mention the squirrels?" Spiderleg hissed. "Is he too scared to speak?" Hollypaw jerked around to see which ThunderClan warrior had muttered the question. Thornclaw was glaring at Firestar. "But he's right to not stir up trouble. There's enough tension here already." "Blackstar?" One Star was prompting the Shadow Clan leader. "Anything to report?" "A few 2-legs by the lake," Blackstar revealed, "but none near our camp." "Good." Firestar nodded. If there's no other news, I think we should leave RiverClan in peace. Whispers rustled through the uneasy crowd, but Firestar jumped down from the Grand Oak. Leopardstar followed him. The gathering was over. Hollypaw felt a wave of relief as she watched WindClan and ShadowClan disappearing into the undergrowth. She hurried back to Willowpaw. "What's really going on?" she demanded. "Why did you leave camp?" Willowpaw's mouth was full of herbs. "I can't talk now," she mumbled. "Not with every cat listening." "I understand." Hollypaw could see the desperate plea in her friend's eyes. "I'll come back later. You can tell me then." Willowpaw spat out the herb pulp onto the ground. "Please don't get in trouble." "I won't," Hollypaw promised. She had to hear the whole story. Firestar might be able to help RiverClan. The future of the clans could depend on what she found out. She spotted Brakenford disappearing into the undergrowth with Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight. Lionpaw was beckoning to her with his tail. "I've got to go." Hollypaw touched her muzzle to Willowpaw's cheek before darting away. "Did she say anything?" Lionpaw asked as she reached him. "No, not really." Hollypaw began to hurry through the ferns. Her heart ached for her unhappy friend. They caught up with their clanmates at the tree bridge. WindClan and ShadowClan were already padding away on the far shore. "What does this mean for ThunderClan?" Mousepaw was asking anxiously as he scrambled onto the trunk. Squirrelflight jumped up beside him. "Nothing." "How can you be sure?" Spiderleg stopped in the middle of the bridge. Dustpelt narrowed his eyes. "If RiverClan can't stay in their own territory, they might try to invade WindClan or ShadowClan. If that happens, none of the borders will be safe." "But we're all the way on the other side of the lake," Mousepaw mewed. "It won't affect us." He followed Dustpelt through the branches and hurried in his paw steps along the trunk. "I just hope you're right," Dustpelt muttered darkly. "I suppose this explains why WindClan had started training their apprentices to hunt in woodland," Spiderleg growled. Hollypaw shivered. Could he be right? Was WindClan planning to invade ThunderClan territory? "Lionpaw!" Ashfur's urgent call woke Hollypaw. She looked up from her nest. Lionpaw was already halfway out of the den. "Is something wrong?" she asked. Most of the nests were already empty. Only Honeypaw slept on. "Battle training," Lionpaw replied over his shoulder. Hollypaw got to her paws and stretched. Brakenfur hadn't called for her. Perhaps she'd get a chance to visit Cinderpaw before training. Outside, she could hear paw steps hurrying and excited mews. Everyone seemed very busy this morning. Intrigued, Hollypaw padded from her den. The sun was only just beginning to creep into the hollow, but the clearing was buzzing like a nest of bees. The fresh kill pile was well stocked. Mousepaw and Berrypaw were practicing battle moves by the half-rock. Graystripe and Millie were dragging brambles towards the half-finished den. Firestar was talking with Thornclaw and Brambleclaw below the high ledge. Outside the Elder's den, Mousefur was stretching in the sun. Longtail sat beside her, his face lifted into the sky. "Hollypaw, is that you I smell?" the blind warrior called across the clearing. "Yes." Hollypaw went over to him. "I hear trouble's coming." Longtail dug his claws into the ground. "I wish I could help defend my clan." "There's no trouble," Hollypaw answered quickly. "RiverClan just has a few problems, that's all." Sounds like there's going to be a new marking out of territory." Longtail went on. "I'd like to see any clan try to take a piece of what belongs to us." He's enjoying this. A long bristle along Hollypaw's spine. She was relieved to see Brakenfur padding towards her. Surely he would be too sensible to be caught up in all this talk of battle. "We're going hunting," he announced. "Good, something normal." Brakenfur went on. "If there's going to be a battle, we need to be well fed." Hollypaw stiffened. "Not Brakenfur, too." "Can I visit Cinderpaw before we leave?" "Go ahead," Brakenfur agreed, "but don't be long." Hollypaw padded across the clearing and poked her nose through the trailing brambles that covered the medicine den entrance. "Can I come in?" Cinderpaw was sitting up in her nest. Her rush-bound hind legs stuck out awkwardly in front of her. She was reaching forward to chase a ball of moss around the edge of her nest with her forepaws. Leafpool was soaking dried horsetail stems in the pool at the other side of the den. She looked around. "Hi, Hollypaw." Hollypaw thought she detected relief in the medicine cat's mew. She pushed through the brambles. "I'm glad you're here. Cinderpaw could do with some company." Leafpool glanced at her fidgeting patient. She's finding it hard to keep still. Cinderpaw patted the moss ball so it flew across the den and landed beside Hollypaw. Toss it back so I can catch it, she pleaded. Don't you dare. Leafpool leaped out over and grabbed the ball in her teeth. You've got to keep still if you want your leg to mend straight. Hollypaw purred with amusement as Cinderpaw rolled her eyes. Then she noticed Jaypaw at the back of the den. He was busily wrapping up herbs and leaf parcels and piling them against the den wall. He seemed totally absorbed in his task and didn't look up to greet his sister. What are you doing, Jaypaw? She called across the den. Preparing herbs, he muttered. What does it look like? That's a lot of herbs. Hollypaw could smell horsetail and marigold. She remembered enough of her medicine cat training to know that he was preparing for combat wounds. She felt sick. It seemed as though the whole clan had accepted the battle was coming. What's up? Cinderpaw called from her nest. Hollypaw padded to her side. Has anybody told you what happened at the gathering? Cinderpaw shook her head. Leafpool and Jaypaw were whispering about something when Leafpool got back, but they haven't said anything to me. RiverClan is living on the island! Cinderpaw's eyes widened with shock. Living there? They can't use their camp for some reason, and all the other clans think that they'll have to find new territory. Cinderpaw gasped. That would mess everything up. I know. Hollypaw glanced at Jaypaw, still busy at the back of the den, and it seems as if everyone is expecting a fight. Cinderpaw plucked at the moss in her nest. I just hope I'm better in time to join in, she mewed. Hollypaw stared at her crossly. There doesn't need to be a battle. But if everyone wants one, Hollypaw cut her off. Everyone's just scared about what RiverClan will do. If we can help RiverClan, then everything will go back to normal. She padded out of the den and stared around the clearing. Foxkit and Icekit were play fighting outside the nursery. Longtail and Mousefur were drawing battle plans in the sandy earth. Firestar was still talking with Brambleclaw. She couldn't let her clanmates get caught up in battle before they had tried to find a different way to solve the problem. If she could just find a way to help RiverClan, maybe there would be nothing left to fight about. Aw, Hollypaw. Okay, we're at chapter 10, but I really wanted to read what Snicklefrit wrote. It's short because there wasn't much chatting, but... Now a verse from our collective tale and chat, a debate unfurls. Lord Phil feels like they're wrangling pearls. With kids they relate in a tangle of views, finding solace in kidship in rules they choose. It tried really, really hard. It worked really hard. Because it doesn't make sense in context to the rest. Okay, where the heck? I accidentally tabbed out. There we go. Man, I haven't had a Slurpee in so long. I miss Slurpees. Chapter 10! Jaypaw! Yes! Jaypaw heard the brambles swish. Hollypaw's gone? He blinked. Hollypaw had only been in the den for a few moments. She must have remembered something she had to do. Cinderpaw sighed. Oh. Jaypaw went back to wrapping his marigold in horsetail policies and leaves, preparing for a battle that might never happen. Why hadn't StarClan warned him? It was not like they were shy about interrupting his dreams. Suddenly, he felt his pelt begin to warm under Cinderpelt's gaze. She was staring at him, her mind tingling with curiosity. Irritation made his claws itch. How long was she going to stay here? She was obviously bored, and Jaypaw missed the peace and privacy of the empty medicine den. He turned and faced her. Something wrong? He asked. No. Cinderpaw sounded oddly thoughtful. I just think I had a dream about you, and you could see. Jaypaw's ears twitched. She remembered their dream. How much? The camp in the ravine? Being Cinderpaw? He waited for sparks of alarm to flash from Leafpool's pelt, but the medicine cat was busy soaking horsetail stems in the pool, her mind focused on her task. Jaypaw padded forward. What was I doing in your dream? He asked casually. I don't remember. I was just surprised you could see. Cinderpaw fidgeted in her nest. Where were we? Cinderpaw hesitated. Some bit of the forest, I think. You were following me and what? Jaypaw leaned close to her. I don't remember. Jaypaw flicked his tail. What would happen if Cinderpaw worked out that she had been Cinderpelt? Surely all the old medicine cat memories must be buried somewhere in the apprentice's mind. Time for Cinderpaw's medicine, Leafpool called from the pool. Okay. Excitement sparked in J-Paw's belly. This could be his chance to find out if any trace of Cinderpelt remained. He darted to the back of the cave, ignoring the comfrey that would help Cinderpaw's bones to heal, and picked up some of the sweet-smelling mallow leaves instead. The mallow would do nothing but soothe her belly. If any of Cinderpelt's knowledge lingered inside her, she would know what was wrong. It was the wrong medicine and say something. Here you are, he announced, dropping the mallow leaves in her nest. Those smell nice, Cinderpaw mewed. It's mallow, J-Paw told her. He nudged them closer. Great for broken bones. He searched her mind for any doubt, but nothing stirred except gratitude. Thanks, J-Paw. What are you doing? Leafpool whisked past and snatched the mallow leaves away. He felt suspicion pricking in the medicine cat's pelt as she brushed against him. You should be giving her comfrey. I must have picked up the wrong leaves, J-Paw lied. Be more careful next time. Irritation flashed from Leafpool. She didn't believe him. Had she guessed he had been testing Cinderpaw? Get back to making policies, she snapped. Her voice softened as she spoke to Cinderpaw. Sorry, Cinderpaw. It's not like J-Paw to be so distracted. J-Paw padded mutinously away to the back of the den. It was so unfair. Leafpool had no patience with him these days, and yet she put up with Cinderpaw's boredom and fidgeting with unending kindness. He flicked his tail petulantly at the stems soaking in the pools. Is the horsetail ready yet? He knew full well that they'd need soaking overnight for the juices to be fully restored. Of course not, she meowed. Use the ones I soaked yesterday. Okay. He hooked a soggy stem from a nearby pile and began to gnaw crossly at one end. Leafpool padded over to join him. Comfrey scents filled the air as she collected a few leaves for Cinderpelt. What is the matter with you? She hissed. What's the matter with you? He snapped back. I am not the one giving Cinderpaw the wrong medicine. I only wanted to see if she would know the difference. She's Cinderpaw, not Cinderpelt. But there must be something in there. If there is, it's not up to us to find out. J-Paw felt Leafpool's breath on his cheek. We have to let Cinderpaw find her own destiny. What's wrong with helping her along? Surely Cinderpaw deserves to know she's been sent back by Starkland to be a warrior. If Starkland wants her to know, they'll tell her, Leafpool mewed. So you're happy to leave it in the paws of Starkland? Of course, she sounded shocked, and so should you. J-Paw went back to chewing. The stem's bitter juice made his whiskers twitch. Why was Leafpool so totally in awe of her ancestors? He'd met them. They seemed no different from cats who were still alive. Did Leafpool really think that dying made a dumb cat wise? They could walk in other cats' dreams, but so could he. That didn't mean he knew the answers to everything. J-Paw! Cinderpaw's mew rang around the den. J-Paw blinked open his eyes. Are you okay? I'm fine. Cinderpaw sounded wide awake. J-Paw lifted his muzzle and sniffed. It smelled as though dawn had only just arrived. Couldn't she sleep a little longer? Or at least let him sleep a little longer? Leafpool's gone to check on Foxkit, she mewed. I thought we could have a game while she's gone. J-Paw struggled to his paws, yawning. He could feel the lively energy coming off Cinderpaw in waves. I wish I could move my leg, she complained. I feel fine apart from that. You have to keep it still if you want it to mend properly, J-Paw told her. I know, Cinderpaw sighed, but I'm so bored. J-Paw felt a wave of sympathy for her. New Leaf had set the forest a-twitter, and the scent of fresh life called out like a friend begging to play. Something whistled through the air and bounced softly off his shoulder. A moss ball. Okay, he conceded, but you're not allowed to move from your nest. I'll throw it to you. But you can't see me. Yes, J-Paw agreed. But since you'd never shut up, I can always hear exactly where you are. He hooked the moss ball with his paw and lobbed it at her. Her nest scrunched as she stretched to catch it. I must throw it lower next time. The moss ball hissed through the air once more. Judging its distance exactly, J-Paw leapt and dived, rolling over as he caught it. Wow! Cinderpaw purred. Impressive. She was suddenly still. What's it like? J-Paw tipped his head to one side. What's what like? Being blind. What does it feel like to be able to see? I don't know. I guess it feels normal. Well, being blind feels normal to me. But isn't it hard not to be able to tell where everything is? But I can tell. J-Paw appreciated Cinderpaw's honesty. Most other cats acted like like if they didn't talk about his lack of sight, he'd forget he was any different. Everything smells or makes sound, and sometimes I get he searched for the right word, a sense of things. So you never get frustrated? Only when I get treated like I'm different, J-Paw replied. I don't feel any different, so it's really annoying when everyone makes a fuss about my blindness. It's like they feel sorry for me when there's nothing to feel sorry about. He flicked the ball into the air, then swiped it towards Cinderpaw. Her nest rustled under her. What in StarClan? Leafpool's furious mew sounded at the entrance. She darted across the den and whisked the moss ball into the pool, then rounded on J-Paw. What are you doing, making her stretch up like that? It was my idea, Cinderpaw mewed at once. Leafpool ignored her. You should have known better. J-Paw bristled. I told her not to move from her nest. That's not good enough. Her leg must heal properly. Leafpool's mew dropped to a whisper. She must train as a warrior this time. Why must she? Anger exploded in J-Paw's chest. Why would it be such a disaster if she had to take a different path? I had to. Leafpool froze for a moment, then slowly replied, You are blind. J-Paw's rage fell away. Did Leafpool think he was a lost cause? Did she only fight to save the cat who could be saved? He turned away from her, too wretched to say anything. No chips, but I do want some popcorn later. Leafpool hurried away to Cinderpaw's nest and began fussing with her cobweb binding. Taking notes. Could you imagine, if you had, a little, notepad and every single time I had chips, you did, a check mark? I think I've only actually had chips twice in all the times that you've asked me. J-Paw padded out of the den. He could hear the clan, busy in the clearing. Graystripe and Millie chatted to each other as they wove the roof of the new den into place. Lionpaw was chasing Foxkid and Icekid around the nursery. Ferncloud was sharing tongues with Dustpelt below the high ledge. I'm more than just a blind medicine cat. J-Paw flexed his claws. I'll show them. The brambles swished beside him. We need to fetch herbs. Leafpool's mew was matter-of-fact, as though nothing had passed between them. He searched her mind for some lingering anger or guilt, but her thoughts seemed to be carefully shielded. The marigold should be flowering by the lake shore, she went on as she led him out of camp. J-Paw didn't speak. He sulked in silence as they trekked up the slope and over the ridge. As they emerged from the trees, a chilly wind cut through his fur. It smelled of rain. Leafpool headed down the grassy slope to the shore. I can see some. She veered into the wind. J-Paw narrowed his eyes as it blasted his face. This was a pointless journey. You know we've already got a pile of marigold in the den, don't you? Leafpool slowed her pace to match his. If there is to be a battle, we must be prepared, she told him. Our first duty is to heal the clan. J-Paw felt her willing him to speak. Don't you think? She sounded anxious. Grudgingly, he let himself be drawn into the conversation. Yes, he conceded. But what about sharing with StarClan? That's part of our duty, too. Why didn't they warn us a battle was coming? StarClan doesn't always tell us everything that's going to happen. 3 times? Oh my god, you have been taking note. I can't believe this. Do we just have to wait until we're told? J-Paw bristled with frustration. We can walk among them in our dreams. Surely we can find out for ourselves. Are you questioning the wisdom of StarClan? J-Paw bit back his reply. That he couldn't figure out why being dead made StarClan so wise. There's more to being a medicine cat than sharing with StarClan, Leafpool went on. You still don't know every herb, for example. She halted and sniffed loudly. What's that one? J-Paw tasted the air. A sharp tang bathed his tongue. He reached down and touched small soft leaves. Tight flower buds bounced against his nose. Do you recognize that? Leafpool prompted. Fever flu. J-Paw mewed. Good for aches, especially headaches. He turned away, adding, but it's no good to us now because the flower won't be out for another moon. Why was she treating him like a mouse-brained idiot? How many times did he have to prove himself? Another scent caught his attention. Something tastier than fever flu. He dropped into a hunting crouch. The grass ahead was shivering, and he could hear tiny shuffling. The image of a vole formed in his mind. He could see it as clearly as if he were dreaming. It was trembling. Quick as a flash, J-Paw shot forward, diving through the grass, paws outstretched. The vole darted sideways, but J-Paw veered and cut off its escape route. It careered into his paws, and he hooked it easily, killing it with a sharp nip. Padding back to Leafpool, he dangled his catch under her nose. Very good, she meowed. He flung it at her paws, the morning's frustration suddenly swamping him. Now do you believe that I don't need eyes to see? He waited for anger to flash from her, for her sharp rebuke to sting his ears. Instead, he felt her tail sweep his flank, gentle as a breeze. Oh, J-Paw, she sighed, I have always believed in you. Emotion swelled from her, sentimental and oppressive, filling his mind like a sticky cloud. Taken aback, he edged away and darted down onto the shore. Ahead, a stream was babbling as it flowed out of the forest and into the lake. This was where Mousepaw had lost the squirrel, and this was where he had found the stick. He hadn't realized that he had come this far around the lake. His paws tingled with excitement. The stick! He picked his way over the shore, careful not to trip on the twigs and two-leg rubbish washed up by the lake. A large drop of rain landed between his shoulder blades. He shook it off, ducking as another hit his nose. He could smell the stick now, its strange scent calling to him like a kit mewling for its mother. He hurried to where he had left it tucked behind the tree root and dragged it out onto the shore. He wanted to run his paws over it again, feel the scars on its smooth surface. His pads felt warm as they stroked it, his heart suddenly as full as a well-fed belly. Is that the same old stick you found last time? Leafpool had caught up to him. J-Paw nodded. Hi, Dark Impala. We are doing fine. I am doing fine. I hope you're doing fine. I always wanted to know about that book. Yeah, Warrior Cats. This is the second book of the third series. So it might be hard to get in at this point, but it's still fun to read and listen to. Why are you so interested in it? Leafpool was puzzled. It feels important. He rested both paws on the wood, as smooth as spider's silk. A gentle murmuring filled his mind, like soft lapping waves. His paws traced the etching on the wood. They lingered on the uncrossed marks, and he felt sadness spike into his pads. These marks are untold stories. Rain was splattering on the leaves overhead and splashed in great drops onto his back. We should get back, Leafpool decided. What about the stick? Thunder rolled in the distance. Wind whipped off the lake, buffeting and pushing like a bad-tempered badger. We must get back to camp. Leafpool sounded worried. I can see the storm clouds coming. We shouldn't be out in this. J-Paw's fur bristled. He felt lightning prickle in the air. A blast of wind pushed him sideways, knocking him away from the stick. Come on, Leafpool urged. Waves were pounding the shore now, beaten in by the rising wind. What about the stick? J-Paw called, but Leafpool was already hurrying away. Come on, she ordered. There was no time to drag it back to the safety of the root. The wind was tearing at his fur, blowing back his ears. Pelting rain stung his eyes. Ducking down, J-Paw darted after his mentor and raced back to the safety of the camp. The rain had stopped, but the wind still roared above the hollow. J-Paw lay in his nest and listened to the forest creaking high above the medicine den. The leaves swished like waves upon a shore, but J-Paw hardly heard them. His ears were filled with whispering. His claws itched as he imagined the earthy scent of the stick. He rolled over in his nest and flattened his ears, but the whispering still breathed in his ears. He stretched out and pummeled restlessly at the moss underneath him. Why don't you go for a walk? Leafpool murmured from his nest. Before your fidgeting wakes Cinderpaws. Well, okay. J-Paw sat up. His paws ached to be outside. He wanted to touch the stick once more. He pushed his way through the brambles. Outside, the wind was stirring up the restless scents of new leaves, so that the whole forest seemed to be swaying and fidgeting with impatience. Instinctively, J-Paw knew that the sky was clear and the moon was shining. He could feel its cold light wash his pelt. As he headed for the camp entrance, the thorn barrier quivered. J-Paw? Lionpaw was squeezing through the dirt place tunnel. Hi, Lionpaw. J-Paw greeted him curiously. His brother's pelt prickled with guilt and alarm, and it smelt of the wind. He's been out in the forest. I was just making dirt. Lionpaw was lying. J-Paw narrowed his eyes. Does every cat in this clan have secrets? I was just going out. He sensed wariness in his brother's paws and decided to test him. Will you come with me? If you want. Lionpaw mewed warily. He feels too guilty to refuse. Birchfall hailed them from the camp entrance. Who's there? Only us, J-Paw called back. He padded towards the thorn tunnel. We're just going out into the forest. Birchfall purred. A midnight adventure, he meowed. That reminds me of my apprentice days. He sounded wistful, even though he'd only been a warrior for a few moons. J-Paw didn't say anything. Birchfall always liked to pretend he was vastly wise and experienced compared with apprentices, but J-Paw hadn't forgotten the fuss he'd made over getting a thorn in his paw. The warrior stepped aside, and J-Paw felt the wind whisk through the tunnel. He beckoned to Lionpaw with his tail. Coming? Lionpaw followed J-Paw through the barrier. Watch out for foxes! Birchfall called after them. J-Paw shivered, the memory of the fox springing from the undergrowth while he and Brightheart trekked through the forest made his belly tighten. Don't worry, Lionpaw reassured him. I can handle foxes now. They padded up the slope and onto the ridge. Where are we going? Lionpaw asked. The lake. Lionpaw made no comment. No interest sparked from his pelt. J-Paw could feel a dark cloud hovering in his brother's mind, absorbing every other thought like quicksand. He tried reaching into it, but felt nothing but uncertainty. As they left the trees and headed down to the grassy slope, the wind whipped at J-Paw's ears and whiskers. He lashed his tail, excited by the stormy weather and the thought of touching the stick once more. He could smell the lake now and pictured it, a vast moon pool, ruffled and reflecting a shattered moon. The scents of RiverClan, WindClan, and ShadowClan clashed and mingled on the breeze. Hi, Naoki! Was there really going to be a battle? Do you think WindClan is planning to invade us? He mewed. Lionpaw pressed against him, steering him around a rabbit hole. It wouldn't make sense. J-Paw thought he heard hope in his brother's mew. It's RiverClan. They should be worried about... It's RiverClan they should be worried about, not us. But what about the squirrel hunting? Why shouldn't they hunt squirrels? The woods belong to them on the other side of the gully. Lionpaw sounded more like a warrior than an apprentice, as though he knew something J-Paw didn't. As their paws crunched on the pebbles around the edge of the lake, Lionpaw hesitated. Why are we here? I left something here, J-Paw explained. I need to drag it into the trees. I want to keep it safe from the lake. What? A stick. A stick? Yes! Can I sleep on your stream? Yeah, you can! J-Paw sniffed the air, hoping to detect its scent. It has markings on it. His tail pricked with anxiety as he smelled nothing but wind-blown water. I left it here. What does it look like? No bark, J-Paw mewed. Just smooth wood, with lines scratched into it. Thank you for the lurk, Phil. Okay, Lionpaw mewed. You check where you've left it. I'll search the top of the shore in case the wind carried it up there. J-Paw hurried to the place where he had abandoned the stick. His heart began to pound. He was certain it was gone, and not just because he couldn't scent it. There was a dark emptiness in his chest that told him the stick was no longer here. He was right. The pebbles were bare. Fighting the fear that jabbed his belly, J-Paw zigzagged over the shore, sniffing at the pebbles, trying to trace where the stick had gone. Why had he let the storm chase him away? He should have made sure the stick was safe before he ran home like a fox-hearted coward. Have you found it? Lionpaw's mew was muffled by the wind. No! J-Paw felt panic rising in his chest. He couldn't have lost it. Is this it? Lionpaw called suddenly. J-Paw charged toward his brother. He tripped over a piece of driftwood, bruising his paws, but he ignored the pain and limbered desperately over to Lionpaw. He knew even before he reached it that it was not the stick. Where are the scratches? He snapped. I told you, it has scratches. Okay. Lionpaw flashed with resentment. I'm just trying to help. I have to find it. J-Paw wandered away, stumbling over the pebbles and debris. I'm sorry. He felt as if he had let someone down, though he had no idea how or who. His paw was throbbing now, but he didn't care. Had the lake reclaimed the stick? He headed down the beach until the water lapped his paws and paddled into the shadows. He had to find the stick. Cold water rippled against his belly fur. It dragged at his paws as he waded deeper. He remembered falling from the cliff, sinking, floundering beneath the waves. Crowfeather had saved him then, but the fear of the lake had stayed with him. It screamed at him now, warning him to turn back. J-Paw! A voice rang in his head. Something tugged his fur, drawing him further out. The waves lapped over his spine, and he lifted his chin to keep it dry. This way! With each paw step, he had to reach down further to feel the pebbles, but he had to find the branch. Suddenly, his paw knocked something beneath the water. That's it! Taking a great gulp of air, he ducked his head beneath the waves and grabbed the end of the branch in his teeth. Tugging desperately, he began to drag it up to the beach. He let go and took another gulp of air before diving again to grab the branch. He dug his paws into the pebbles, scrambling to get a grip. The stick was so heavy. He pulled and pulled, his lungs bursting as he tried to drag it out of the water. Suddenly, it moved more easily, almost weightless. The stick began to float towards the shore. J-Paw only needed to guide it with his teeth. Relief surged his paws as his head finally broke the surface. He gasped and coughed, still gripping the stick with his teeth, water dripping from his whiskers. He had reached the shallows. What in StarClan were you doing? The branch slapped down in the water as Lionpaw let go of the other end. I saw you disappear under the water and I thought you were trying to drown yourself. Then I realized you were dragging this. I don't know how you thought you were going to get it out on your own. The water lapped around the stick. J-Paw ran his paws over it, searching out the scratches. He wished the stick was not so big, that he could take it back to camp with him. Look, he breathed, running his paw over the marks. You have drowned yourself in the middle of the night for a stick with claw marks on it. Water sprayed from Lionpaw as he shook himself. You're crazy. I'm not. J-Paw snapped hotly. It's important. Thank you, J-Paw. We'll be remembered as long as you guard us. Come on, he mewed. Let's get this tucked under a root and get back to camp. Dun 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 dun. Chapter 11. For StarClan's sake! Asher bounded from the ferns and glared angrily at Lionpaw. How did you miss it? The wagtail, which had whisked away from Lionpaw's outstretched paws only moments earlier, perched on a branch above the training hollow and called an alarm before fluttering away into the trees. Lionpaw hung his head. He should have caught it, but his paws felt like stones. Sorry. The midnight trek to the beach with J-Paw had left him exhausted. He quivered with irritation. He had left Heatherpaw early in the night so he could catch up on his sleep. Why had J-Paw dragged him out into the lake instead of letting him rest? You're lumbering around like a badger today, Ashfur scolded. Spiderleg and Mousepaw padded out of the ferns with Honeypaw and Sandstorm. More like a hibernating hedgehog, Mousepaw teased. Lionpaw glared at his den mate. Honeypaw flicked her tail at Mousepaw. It wasn't long ago you missed a squirrel, she reminded him. Lionpaw's ears grew hot. He didn't need Honeypaw to defend him. Honeypaw's right. Spiderleg nudged Mousepaw's shoulder with his muzzle. And your climbing could use some practice. Mousepaw flattened his ears. Well, let's go practice then. You better not try the sky oak, Honeypaw called out as the two cats headed for the trees. Mousepaw's tail quivered with annoyance as it disappeared into the undergrowth. Sandstorm turned to her apprentice. Come on, Honey Paw. We'll see if there are any mice around the old beach. Can we come too? Ashfur looked pointedly at Lionpaw. I don't think we'll find as many birds around here now. Of course. Sandstorm bounded up the slope of the hollow and then headed back into the trees. Ashfur hurried to catch her up. Don't worry, Honeypaw whispered, falling in beside Lionpaw. I missed a sparrow yesterday. Lionpaw snorted and hurried ahead of her, bristling. Hi, Kaito! Thank you for the lurk! The ground beneath the beach was littered with empty husks. This was a great place for hunting mice attracted by the ready supply of beech nuts. Lionpaw pushed ahead of Honeypaw into the ferns that ringed the open ground beneath the trees. Ashfur and Sandstorm were waiting for them, sat beneath the arching fronds. Let's hope we manage to catch something here, Ashfur meowed. We don't want the clan to go hungry. They won't, Lionpaw snapped. Why couldn't Ashfur give him advice instead of pointing out his mistakes? Look! Honeypaw jerked his head towards the clearing. A mouse was sitting between the snaking roots of the beech, a nut between its forepaws. It was busy nibbling at the shell. That'll be easy to catch, she blinked encouragingly at Lionpaw. It doesn't even know we're here. Why don't you catch it then? He hissed. Honeypaw's eyes clouded. I thought you might want the chance. I don't need your help, Lionpaw snapped. Did you think he was a helpless kid? Honeypaw dropped her gaze and he felt guilty. She had only been trying to help. He turned and peered out of the undergrowth. He'd catch the mouse to show her he was sorry. But it had gone. Something else was stirring the leaves only a few tail lengths away. Lionpaw dropped into a hunting crouch. Willing away the tiredness that made his limbs feel as heavy as wet wood, he began to creep forward. The leaves moved again, and a tiny nose peeked out. Tensing every muscle, Lionpaw prepared to leap. Keep your tail down, Ashfur hissed. Lionpaw pressed his haunches down harder to the ground, then he darted forward. He wasn't fast enough. The vole scuttled beneath a root. Lionpaw glanced at Ashfur, expecting some comment, a word of advice, or even disappointment, but his mentor turned away without saying anything. Yikes. Brambleclaw looked up as Lionpaw followed Ashfur into the camp. The ThunderClan deputy's eyes narrowed as Ashfur dropped 2 mice and a sparrow onto the fresh kill pile. Lionpaw had nothing to offer. Prey still running? Brambleclaw padded over to them. There's plenty around, Ashfur commented. Lionpaw waited for Ashfur to tell Brambleclaw how useless he'd been today. He blinked in surprise when Ashfur meowed. Lionpaw's hunting is coming along fine. He just needs to work on his crouch. Why hadn't he told Brambleclaw the truth? Had Ashfur given up on him? Or was he being soft on him because his father was the deputy? Brambleclaw cuffed Lionpaw softly around the ear. I thought you'd mastered the hunting crouch before you left the nursery. Didn't anybody care? Irritation prickled his paws. He had been floundering for days, but nobody had mentioned it. Why weren't they taking his training seriously? With all the talk of battle, surely it was more important than ever that he was doing well. He glanced at Brambleclaw, but the ThunderClan deputy was already padding away with a mouse in his jaw. You might as well have something to eat too, Ashfur meowed. It's been a long morning. What about training? Rest first. Ashfur began to head across the clearing. We'll do some battle training later. It looked as if Ashfur really had given up on him. Maybe his mentor thought training was a waste of time. Lionpaw felt indignation, but it died as he stared wearily at the fresh kill pile. He was too tired to eat. All he wanted to do was curl up and sleep. He headed for the apprentice den, ducking beneath the low branch of the bramble bush. With a sigh of relief, he coiled down into his nest and closed his eyes. Lionpaw! Berrypaw's voice woke him. Time for battle training! Lionpaw struggled awake like a drowning cat fighting its way to the surface. Berrypaw was standing over him, shaking his shoulders with his paws. Okay, Lionpaw mewed. Put your claws away. I'm awake. He shook Berrypaw away and heaved himself to his paws. A fog filled his brain, and his body felt as though it was weighed down with boulders. His nap had only made him feel more tired. Ashfur and Brambleclaw want us to do some battle training together. Lionpaw sighed. What's the matter? Berrypaw leaned forward. You normally can't wait to try and beat me. His whiskers twitched. Are you scared? No! Of course he wasn't scared. I just want to sleep. He stumbled out of the den after Berry Paw and blinked in the afternoon sun. Ashfur and Brambleclaw were already waiting by the camp entrance. They nodded at Lion Paw and headed out of camp. Hold on, I have to turn on my light. I'm sitting in the darkness. Slow down! Lion Paw felt hardly awake as he hurried after Berry Paw and the two warriors. He stumbled through the forest in a daze of tiredness, tripping over brambles and stifling yawn after yawn. He half slid down the slope into the mossy training hollow where Berry Paw was waiting with Ashfur and Brambleclaw. Stretching his claws, Lion Paw padded to join them. He shook himself, hoping to jerk himself awake, but a numbing fog still clouded his mind. Let's get started. Oh, sorry, that was Brambleclaw. He doesn't have such an aggressive voice. Let's get started, Brambleclaw meowed. Berry Paw, I want you to pretend you're defending your territory. He flicked his tail. Lion Paw, attack him. Berry Paw dropped into a crouch, hackles bristling and tail lashing. His eyes were narrowed to slits, and his chin glided back and forth like over the ground like a snake's. Come on, Lion Kit, he teased. Anger flashed in Lion Paw's pelt. Without thinking, he rushed at Berry Paw, his sleepy paws stumbling over the ground. He hurled himself at his den mate, forelegs splayed. Berry Paw reared up and caught him under the chin, flinging him backwards. Before Lion Paw could roll out of the way, Berry Paw sprang up on top of him. Lion Paw struggled, but the other apprentice's weight pinned him to the ground. Berry Paw looked up triumphantly at Brambleclaw. That was easy! His attention slipped. Lion Paw darted out from under him. He butted Berry Paw's creamy flank with his head, but Berry Paw hardly flinched. Instead, he rounded on Lion Paw and swiped at him with a forepaw. Lion Paw only just managed to duck in time. What now? His mind was sluggish with sleep. Working on instinct, he dived beneath Berry Paw's belly and tried to leap up and unbalance him, but he hadn't bargained for Berry Paw's greater weight. Berry Paw merely dropped on him and squashed him to the ground. Lion Paw, defeated, went limp. Every move he had made had been badly thought out. Berry Paw stepped off Lion Paw and sat down beside Brambleclaw, curling his tail over his paws. Ashfur stared down at his apprentice. Was that the best you could do? Lion Paw shot to his paws, his ears burning. He was wide awake now, his body tingling with anger. It's not my fault you taught me all the wrong moves. Shock flashed in Brambleclaw's eyes, but Ashfur's gaze remained calm. Do you think anyone would believe I taught you that clumsy display? Well, if you had, it would be the first thing you've taught me today. That managed to ruffle Ashfur's pelt. The gray warrior's eyes blazed. Brambleclaw stepped forward. A warrior never blames his clanmates for his own mistakes, Lion Paw. He turned to Ashfur. But I think you need to speak with your apprentice. Come on, Berry Paw. Let's carry on training over there. The fur along Ashfur's spine quivered as he watched Brambleclaw pad to the other side of the clearing. Lion Paw suddenly felt cold as his anger slid away. He had gone too far. I'm sorry, he mewed. Ashfur swung his head around and glared at Lion Paw. I have tried to make you the best apprentice in your den, he growled, but lately it's been like training a slug. You only seem to half hear what I tell you, and the things you do hear you forget. You used to have an instinct for hunting and fighting, but it's gone and I don't know where. Dang. Lion Paw's whiskers trembled. He couldn't deny that he had been distracted lately, but he thought that no one had noticed. I promise I'll try harder. You'll have to if you don't want to get left behind in the apprentice den and watch Fox Kid and Ice Kid become warriors before you. I will! Fear squirmed in Lion Paw's belly. Not Ashfur, but a failure. Everything had come so easily before. The idea that he might struggle to keep up filled him with dread. Good. Ashfur nodded curtly. Let's start again. Lion Paw squared his shoulders. Okay. We'll try the badger defense. Lion Paw blinked. But that's one of the hardest. I know. Ashfur crouched. Watch carefully. He reared up and leaped forward, high enough to clear a badger's back. He landed without dropping onto his forepaws and spun around so fast that Lion Paw marveled at how he kept his balance. Then he ducked down back onto forepaws and twisted to the side, snapping his jaws as though clamping them onto a badger's hind leg. Now you do it. he ordered. And don't forget, a badger is twice as big as a cat, so make the leap as high as you can. You don't want to end up on its back. If it rolled over, it could crush you. Heart pounding, Lionpaw reared up. He tried to leap forward, but lost his balance and fell to one side, slamming his forepaws onto the ground. Again! Ashfur demanded. Lionpaw pushed himself up and tried to leap forward once more. This time he managed to spring a little way, but he toppled over and fell down onto four paws again. Put more power in your jump, Ashfur meowed. Most of your strength is in your hind legs. Use it. But I can't keep my balance, Lionpaw protested. Then keep trying until you can. Ashfur! Brambleclaw called from the other side of the clearing. I want to try out a double attack on Berrypaw. Can you come and help? Berrypaw was ready to take on 2 warriors? Lionpaw's pads tingled with jealousy. They'll never let me try that. Ashfur narrowed his eyes. Keep practicing, he commanded, and bounded away to join the ThunderClan deputy. Lionpaw felt despair drag at his paws. Why had Ashfur given him something so impossible to practice? Was he trying to make him look even more useless? Half-heartedly, he reared onto his hind legs. He staggered even before he tried to jump, the forest swaying in front of him. Frustrated, he dropped onto 4 paws. I'll never get this! Of course you will. A pelt brushed his, nudging him so roughly that it sent him sprawling across the wet moss. Lionpaw scrambled crossly to his paws. What are you? He broke off. Brambleclaw, Ashfur, and Berrypaw were still on the far side of the clearing. Who pushed me? Keep your eyes fixed on something in front of you, a voice growled. It's the only way to keep your balance. Lionpaw stared in alarm. 2 eyes burned against the black ground of the forest. A hazy outline moved like mist against the ferns. Fight! Tiger Star! Lionpaw glanced nervously towards his clanmates. Can they see him? Only you can see me. Tiger Star seemed to read his mind. I'm not here as far as they're concerned. Why are you here? Lionpaw shivered. To help you. Tiger Star narrowed his eyes. It looks like you need it. Lionpaw felt hot with shame. I'll be the badger. Tiger Star crouched in front of him. Lionpaw frowned. How could he be able to tackle this ghostly warrior? He could hardly see him. Try it, Tiger Star commanded. And don't forget to keep your eyes on something solid. Lionpaw took a deep breath and stared at a birch at the edge of the clearing. Concentrating hard, he reared onto his hind legs. He was balancing! He tensed the muscles in his hind legs and sprang up and over Tiger Star. Landing behind him, he turned and began to feel himself falling to one side. Tiger Star shifted fast as a snake and pushed him back up so that he could completely turn. Lionpaw regained his balance, ducked, and twisted to nip at Tiger Star's hind leg. Not bad! Tiger Star dodged away. But you won't always have me to prop you up. At least I was better than before. Lionpaw padded back to his starting place while Tiger Star crouched in front of him again. This time he tensed every muscle in his body before pushing up with his back legs and leaping forward. He landed perfectly and ducked, baring his teeth to nip Tiger Star's hind legs. But Tiger Star was already up and pacing. That's more like it, he growled. But you should slash out with your 4 paws you spin. That way you could scratch the badger as well as bite it. Lionpaw's heart was pounding with excitement. He hadn't felt this awake in days. Let's try it. He managed it perfectly on the first time. Tiger Star dodged to avoid being raked by Lionpaw's fast 4-paw slash. Much better. How are you getting on? Ashfur called. Call made Lionpaw jump. He spun around guiltily and saw his mentor padding towards him. He glanced nervously over his shoulder. Tiger Star was gone. Ashfur narrowed his eyes. You have been practicing, haven't you? Yes, Lionpaw mewed quickly. Show me. Lionpaw performed the move even better than he had with Tiger Star. He finished in a perfect crouch and glanced up at Ashfur. His mentor's eyes were glowing. You might make a warrior after all. He beckoned to Brambleclaw with his tail. Come and watch this. Brambleclaw bounded to join them, Berrypaw on his heels. You be the badger, Berrypaw, Ashfur ordered. Berrypaw crouched, and Lionpaw reared up and leaped over him. He spun and flicked out a claw that parted Berrypaw's fur and finished by grazing Berrypaw's hind leg with his teeth. A badger wouldn't stand a chance, Ashfur meowed proudly. He could have jumped higher, Berrypaw mewed. It would have slowed him down, Ashfur argued. Brambleclaw? Lionpaw was itching to know what his father thought. Was it okay? A troubled look seemed to be clouding the ThunderClan deputy's gaze. Brambleclaw blinked. It was great, he meowed. He turned to Ashfur. Did you teach him the move with the claw? No. He came up with that by himself. Did you? Brambleclaw's gaze seemed to burn into Lionpaw's. Lionpaw nodded guiltily. Had his father recognized Tiger Star's move? Did you like it? It's a nice touch. Brambleclaw stroked his tail along Lionpaw's flank. Let's get back to camp. The ThunderClan deputy padded out of the mossy clearing, his striped tail disappearing into the ferns. Berrypaw made a face at Lionpaw before following his mentor into the undergrowth. Are you coming? Ashfur meowed. In a moment. Lionpaw wanted to see if Tiger Star would come back. He wanted to know why the Dark Warrior was taking so much interest in him. J-Paw was the only one who spoke with their ancestors. As Ashfur slipped into the ferns, Lionpaw scanned the clearing. There was no sign of Tiger Star, not even a scent. The tabby warrior had vanished. Lionpaw shook away the doubt prickling in his pelt. He should be grateful. Tiger Star seemed to care more about his training than his mentor did. Thanks, Tiger Star, he whispered into the trees, and followed his clanmates home towards camp. Wild. One of the weird things, not weird things, but like, interesting things about Tiger Star is that he puts so much effort. I guess to be fair, he's dead and he doesn't have anything better to do. But he puts so much effort into training his kin so that hopefully they can like follow in his footsteps. But in his plan, he never works on their loyalty to him first. He bribes them with his teaching of fighting, you know? He's like, "Oh, I'll teach you how to be a great warrior. I'll teach you how to be fantastic." And then he assumes that afterwards they're going to feel like they're in debt to him or something. I don't know what he assumes actually. But he always it's like the next part of his plan is after that. Like, oh, because you fight like me, now you're going to think like me kind of deal. Which is, to be fair, in some way, like Tiger Star tends to teach more nasty fighting moves. You know what I mean? Like adding the claw in, he's utilizing as much like violence as he can. As if there's a place for him to attack more, then he attacks more. And I guess like he could kind of depend on that to make someone start thinking that way. Like, how can I approach this in a more violent way? How can I attack more in what I'm doing, even if it isn't necessarily like a battle attack? But it does make it funny because for Brambleclaw's case, he was trained by Tiger Star, but then he dipped out. So he has all of Tiger Star's skills and stuff, but he still dipped out at the end. He didn't follow in his footsteps. So that's I guess like if you were like really, really clever, like I feel like if Tawny Pelt actually followed his advice, Tawny Pelt would be that type to be like, you know, get all of his information, get all his fighting moves, and then at the last, like, you know, when she feels like she learned everything, she can be like, bye. And then he's like, what do you mean? And he's like, I don't want to visit you anymore, so peace out. Thanks for the training lesson. Bye. That's what I feel like she'd be like. And I almost wonder what they would have done with the J-Paw training. I actually can't remember if they did wind up going back and visiting J-Paw and like trying to train him, because that would be really cool to see how they would train him to fight blind, you know? Alright, chapter 12. I have a piece of peanut bread here. So tomorrow, we'll talk about this at the end of stream too. But tomorrow we have sorry, I was reading something. Tomorrow I am hosting Dunn's Lethal, or hosting with him, Dunn's Lethal Company competition? Tourney? Something like that. Tournament? Yes. Tomorrow at... Actually, don't know what time. Wait, what day is this? Done! What day is it? I mean, I know what day it is, but what time? Oh, 6 p.m. EST. Okay, so my normal time that I stream. I won't be streaming it, though. I'll be on Dunn's channel. So I won't stream, but I'll be, like, live. Yeah. You know what? I wish I was, like, a better artist. Or, like, not even, like, a better artist, but a better, clothes designer. Like, I had a better idea of how to do, like, clothes designs. Because then I could just doodle myself in, like, a bazillion different outfits. And they'd all be really cute. And maybe even if I don't get an outfit, like a model with an outfit, I'd still have, like, a cute little outfit. It'd be so cute! But I can't. Why am I keep on getting, like, pinned in the, yeah, bro, you can check in our pinned messages. Insane. Alright, let's continue. Chapter 12. Watch out! Greystripe's warning was muffled by the bramble stem clasped in his jaws. Hollypop popped backwards as the trail of bramble swished past her. Millie scurrying by, trying to guide Greystripe's prickly load safely across the clearing. I thought the den was finished, Hollypop mewed to Hazelpaw, flicking her tail at the addition to the warrior's den. Its walls were thick and its roof pressed firmly into place. Why do they need even more brambles? It's not for the warrior's den. Hazelpaw shook her head. My goodness. Hazelpaw shook her gray and white head. They're reinforcing the nursery. Hollypaw's heart sank. Why was everyone so sure there was going to be a battle? Ferncloud began shooing Foxkid and Icekid away from the nursery, while Greystripe and Millie wrapped the brambles around the already densely tangled bush. Hazelpaw nodded towards the fresh kill pile where Mousepaw was choosing his midday snack. Are you coming? Hollypaw shook her head. She wasn't hungry. Anxiety had been churning in her belly since the gathering. Besides, she was hunting with Bracken for later. She could eat then. She watched Hazelpaw pick a mouse from the pile and settle down beside Mousepaw. Their fluffy gray pelts merged into one. Suddenly, the honeysuckle quivered and Brightheart rushed from the elder's den. The one-eyed cat was snapping instructions over her shoulder. Quick, this way! Longtail shot out behind her, Mousefur limping after him. I don't see why we have to practice. Mousefur coughed. I know the drill. Brightheart halted at the bottom of the tumble of rocks. You need to know it by heart in case there's an attack at night. Longtail paused beside Brightheart. Dark or light, it makes no difference to me. His sightless eyes sparkled teasingly. Mousefur padded stiffly past him. I've been in this camp long enough to know the way. Hollypaw could hear her begin to wheeze as she clambered up the rocks towards the safety of the high ledge. Longtail followed closely, nudging her forward whenever her paws slipped. Green cough had left Mouse fur weaker than any cat would admit. Mouse fur especially. It wasn't fair to make her drill like this, especially for a battle that might never happen. Thornclaw and Whitewing padded past Hollypaw. Thornclaw glanced at her. Shouldn't you be helping reinforce the defenses? I'm training with Brakenfur soon, Hollypaw explained. Good. Thornclaw halted beneath the high ledge, where Stormfur and Brook were sharing tongues. We need our apprentices sharp. Brook looked up. Are you so sure the battle will happen? There was anxiety in her husky mountain mew. We can't be too careful, Thornclaw growled. Stormfur sat up. It doesn't make sense, he meowed. Why would WindClan attack us? Yes! Brook's eyes brightened. RiverClan's the one they're gonna have trouble with. What happens to RiverClan will affect us all, Whitewing meowed. Thornclaw flicked his tail. If RiverClan is driven from their territory, where will they go? They'll need to settle somewhere, Whitewing pointed out. Stormfur sighed. None of the borders will be safe. Hollypaw's pelt prickled with anxiety. How could the 4 clans survive if RiverClan lost their territory? Hollypaw! Brakenfur was headed towards her. Are we going hunting? Change of plan. Brakenfur nodded towards Mousepaw and Hazelpaw. We'll be battle training with your den mates instead. Battle training! He started to hurry away. I'll meet you at the training hollow. Hollypaw padded half-heartedly back to the camp entrance. She didn't want to train for a battle that might lead to the end of 4 clans living around the lake. Stormfur's words rang in her ears. None of the borders will be safe. She had to stop this. She turned and almost crashed into Mousepaw. Her green eyes were shining. Did Brakenfur tell you? Hazelpaw clawed at the ground behind him. We're battle training. Hollypaw stared at them. Go ahead without me, she whispered. What are you doing? Mousepaw asked. It doesn't matter, she mewed. I'll catch up with you when I've finished. But what will we tell Brakenfur? Hollypaw didn't answer Hazelpaw's anxious question. She had already pushed past her den mates and was halfway across the clearing. Brakenfur had stopped to talk with Stormfur. Honeypaw quickly ducked behind the elder's den. Imagine thinking I couldn't find my way up to the high ledge, she heard Mousefur's croaking mew from inside. They'll have us practicing washing next. Well, at least we're ready now, Longtail mewed soothingly. I was born ready, Mousefur grumbled. Hollypaw's pelt bristled with anticipation as Brakenfur finally nodded to Stormfur. See you later. The Golden Warrior headed towards the camp entrance. Hollypaw slipped out from behind the honeysuckle and scurried up the rocks to the high ledge. Firestar! She rushed into the cave, blinking against the sudden darkness. Firestar's eyes flashed in the shadows. Sandstorm was plucking the feathers from a sparrow carcass on the other side of the cave. What is it, Hollypaw? You can't just let it happen, Hollypaw mewed. Sandstorm padded to Firestar's side. Let what happened? The battle that everyone's preparing for. The battle might not happen, Firestar meowed calmly. There's nothing wrong with being prepared. But why are we getting ready to fight WindClan when we should be helping RiverClan? Hollypaw stepped forward, her paws trembling. When I spoke to Willowpaw at the gathering, she was so upset. All the RiverClan cats were. They need our help, but all we're doing is getting ready to attack WindClan. Firestar curled his tail over his paws. I have no intention of attacking WindClan, he meowed, but we must be ready if they attack us. Hollypaw couldn't understand how Firestar could be so stupid. WindClan won't attack. It's RiverClan who's in trouble. If RiverClan is forced into WindClan territory, then WindClan may try to take back some of ours, Firestar explained. RiverClan would never want to leave the moorland. Hollypaw's whiskers quivered. They'd want to stay by the lake where they can fish. Sandstorm leaned forward. Clans can adapt to anything if they have to. Firestar nodded. Look how WindClan is getting used to hunting in woodland. Hollypaw angrily flicked her tail. Why don't we try to solve the problem before it turns into a fight? Firestar lifted a paw, warning her to calm down. RiverClan must be allowed to solve their own problems. But what if they can't? Paw steps sounded outside. Hollypaw glanced around to see Leafpool padding into the cave. I thought I heard you in here. The medicine cat blinked at Hollypaw. Firestar dipped his head to Leafpool. Hollypaw's worried about the battle. Fresh frustration flared in Hollypaw's pelt. There doesn't have to be a battle. Of course there doesn't, Leafpool assured her. When I spoke to Mothwing at the gathering, she said that RiverClan was dealing with their problem, but if they can't solve it, we have to be ready. But if we help them, Hollypaw mewed, then they'd be okay. Leafpool shook her head. We must trust RiverClan to sort it out themselves. Leafpool's right, Firestar meowed. Besides, helping RiverClan would mean crossing WindClan territory. Or ShadowClan's, Sandstorm added. Leafpool ran her tail down Hollypaw's flank, and that would only make things worse, wouldn't it? Hollypaw shielded away from Leafpool, bristling. She didn't need to be soothed, like a kit having a bad dream. Why couldn't they take her seriously? Isn't Breakin' waiting for you? Sandstorm prompted. You mustn't fall behind with your training, Firestar reminded her. Hollypaw turned and stamped out of the cave. Pebbles clacked under her paws as she bounded down the rocks to the clearing. Wait! Hollypaw glanced backwards. Leafpool was hurrying after her. I can see her upset. Hollypaw turned on her. Why won't any of you listen? You must remember, Leafpool soothed. We all have more experience than you. You have to trust us to know what's right. StarClan would want us to help RiverClan, Hollypaw mewed. You can't be sure of that, Leafpool blinked. I know you're worried about Willowpaw, but you're training to be a warrior now. It's not appropriate to have such close friends in other clans. Hollypaw glared at her. This isn't about Willowpaw. This is about the future of all 4 clans. She searched Leafpool's gaze and found only a gentle concern. I'm wasting my breath. Go and find Breakin', Leafpool suggested. He's headed for the training hollow. I know where he is, Hollypaw hissed through gritted teeth. I'm sure he must be expecting you. Leafpool touched Hollypaw's cheek with her nose, then patted away. Hollypaw flexed her claws. If she could find out exactly what was happening in RiverClan, perhaps then she could convince Firestar to help, and the clans wouldn't need to fight. She had to talk to Willowpaw. She darted through the entrance tunnel, thorns scraping her pelt. Outside the camp, she glanced around. No one was there. She hurried into the trees, away from the training hollow, and headed up the ridge towards the WindClan border. Squirrel! Birchfell's excited yowl pierced the air. Hollypaw dived into a patch of ferns, pressing her belly to the ground. Paw steps were pounding towards her. She peeped through the green fronds and saw Birchfell and Ashfur skidded down the slope. Lionpaw was racing behind them, his tail fluffed out. She ducked back into the foliage and held her breath. The ferns rustled around her as the patrol whisked past less than a tail length away. Hollypaw screwed her eyes shut. Don't let them see me! Heart pounding, she heard their paw steps fade into the forest. Relief washed her pelt as she crept from her hiding place. She started up the slope. Ears pricked and nose twitching, she ran over to the top of the ridge and headed down, out of the trees, and across the bumpy grass to WindClan border. Her paws trembled as the tang of WindClan hit her nose. This border had been recently marked. Hollypaw scanned the heather-swathed slope that rose up to the high moorland. No sign of any patrols. Tail trembling, she padded across the scent line. Why isn't she going near the lake? She's allowed to do it by the lake. Rain was beginning to fall from the dove-gray sky. It'll help cover my scent, she thought. Relieved as the drops began to soak her fur, she padded through the heather, headed downhill towards the lake, and scrambled down from the peaty earth onto the pebble shore. Keeping low, she scooted to the water's edge. Just to be on the safe side, she waded through the shallows. The water would disguise her scent even more. She shivered with cold as the waves lapped her belly fur. But at least WindClan wouldn't suspect the ThunderClan cat had trespassed on their territory. The rain fell harder, hissing against the surface of the lake. Droplets streamed from her whiskers. Hollypaw glanced towards the moorland rising from the shore, praying that if a patrol appeared from the heather, her black pelt would appear only as sodden driftwood against the gray water. She saw reeds begin to dot the shore up ahead. She was nearing RiverClan territory. She quickened her pace. She could hide more easily among the rushes. Pebbles turned to mud beneath her paws and she smelt the strong scent of RiverClan. Padding out of the shallows, she crept up into the reed bed, thankful to be out of the water and hidden by the towering rushes. Suddenly, a yowl sounded ahead. Hollypaw froze and sniffed the air. Fresh warrior scent. A hunting patrol? She dropped into a crouch, trembling with cold fear as she spotted the stone-colored pelt of Mistyfoot through the reeds. The RiverClan deputy was stalking something. Hollypaw backed away as Mistyfoot drew nearer. She pressed herself against the earth, hoping that her drenched pelt was too wet to betray her scent. Suddenly, Mistyfoot sprang forward, paws outstretched. A moment later, she straightened, her whiskers twitching with triumph, and a water bowl dangling from her jaws. Hollypaw sighed with relief as the RiverClan deputy turned and padded away. Mistyfoot looked thin, and her usual glossy pelt was dull. Clearly, RiverClan was going hungry. Hollypaw waited a few moments before she began to pad on gingerly. The island was not far ahead now, the tree bridge distinct on the shoreline. How would she cross it without being seen? She stiffened against the anxiety that nagged at her bones. I've come this far. Slipping from the cover of the reeds, she darted over the marshy shore and dived among the tangle of roots at the foot of the tree bridge. Pressing herself into them, she scanned the shore, blood pulsing her ears. She sniffed the air. No sign of any cat. Cautiously, she clambered up through the roots and hauled herself onto the tree bridge. Keeping low, she crept along the trunk, gripping the slimy bark with her claws. Hardly daring to breathe, she pricked her ears, listening for an alarm call. She reached the other side, shaking with relief, and slid down through the branches onto the shore. Which way now? This wasn't a gathering. She couldn't just push her way through the undergrowth and head for the clearing. How was she going to find Willowpaw? Hope tingled in her paws when she realized that, not far along the shore, the beach was overtaken by undergrowth. The trees reached the water here, their roots snaking into the lake, and ferns and brambles tumbled over the lip of the island. Hollypaw took a deep breath and raced across the small stretch of open beach. She dived under the cover of a clump of ferns. The fronds spilled into the water, forming a tunnel along the edge of the island. Where in StarClan is the medicine den? Hollypaw prayed she would detect Willowpaw's familiar scent soon. But what if it led her inland, towards the heart of RiverClan's new camp? She crept through the fern tunnel, clambering over tree roots and hauling herself through clumps of bramble, her paws occasionally slipping off the muddy bank and into the cold lake. Suddenly, the undergrowth ended. Rocks stretched ahead of her, rough and flat and black against the water. They reached into the lake, forming a small causeway that ended in a rocky outcrop, jutting up from the water. Hollypaw lifted her head, ears pricked, and tasted the air. She could hear the sounds of RiverClan drifting from the center of the island. Queens talking, kits mewling, an elder complaining about ticks. No sound of warriors or apprentices, though. Hollypaw frowned. At the gathering, the island had been teeming with RiverClan cats. Where were the rest of them now? No time to worry about that. Where was Willowpaw? Hollypaw shivered. She was freezing. Her wet pelt clung to her. She was far from home. Panic started to rise in her chest. What if she couldn't find her friend? Then she heard a squeal. A kit was wailing somewhere up ahead. That hurt! The soft mew of a queen soothed it. It'll only hurt for a bit. Hollypaw could smell herbs. Someone was treating the kit with marigold. She crept out into the rough, flat causeway, following the scent. It was coming up from the rocky outcrop. Crouching lower than ever, Hollypaw slithered around the edge and peered through the gap in the stones. We'll need more marigolds soon. Willowpaw! The RiverClan medicine cat apprentice was crouched in a hollow in the heart of the outcrop, crushing leaves against the rough stone floor with her paws. The kids keep getting pine needles stuck in their pads. Mothwing sat on the ledge nearby, licking herbs into the Mewling kit's paw. A white she-cat held the kit in her paws as it struggled against Mothwing's lapping tongue. Try to keep her out of the pine needles, Icewing, Mothwing advised. It's not easy, the queen sighed. I know, Mothwing agreed. I'll come back to the nursery with you and sweep some of the needles away from the entrance. The queen lifted the kit by its scruff and began to carry it, still mewling, out from the sheltering rock and along the causeway that led back to the island. Mothwing followed her. When she was sure there was no other cat close enough to hear, Hollypaw hissed through the gap in the rock. Willowpaw! The medicine cat apprentice froze. Who's that? It's me, Hollypaw! Hollypaw quickly clambered back around the jutting rocks and slipped into the hollow beside Willowpaw. There was more space inside the outcrop than she had imagined. It was a cave, hollowed out by the countless moons of wind and water, protected from the wind and rain by a low roof, not a woof. Willowbell crouched at the back, her eyes round with shock. What are you doing here? I promised I'd come, Hollypaw reminded her. Does anyone know you're here? Hollypaw shook her head. Then she tensed. Mothwing's scent was wafting into the cave. Hollypaw? Mothwing's mew was sharp. Hollypaw spun around. I came back for poppy seeds. The River Clan medicine cat was standing at the cave entrance. Her bones looked sharp beneath her pelt. Hollypaw, what are you doing here? I had to do something. Hollypaw mewed desperately. ThunderClan are getting ready to fight WindClan. Everyone's scared about what will happen if RiverClan is driven out of its home. Mothwing looked at her. RiverClan is not going to be driven out of anywhere. How can you be so sure? Hollypaw gazed back at her thin frame, unconvinced. You're half-starved, and you're still living on the island. Willowpaw brushed against her. It won't be for long. Hollypaw glanced at the rows of herbs carefully stacked against the cave wall. It looked like RiverClan was planning to be here for some time. But you've brought everything from your old camp, she pointed out. The RiverClan medicine cat sighed. You'd better show her. Really? Willowpaw looked surprised. Now? Mothwing nodded. Just don't let yourself be seen. Willowpaw nodded and streaked from the cave. Hollypaw hurried after her, pelt ruffled with curiosity. She followed Willowpaw across the tiny causeway and back around the shoreline. Let's swim across to the mainland. Willowpaw mewed. It'll be easier to stay out of sight. Hollypaw's wet fur spiked in alarm. I know I'm soaked, but there's no way I'm swimming. The tree bridge lay only a few fox lengths ahead of them. Okay. Willowpaw mewed impatiently. But we'd better disguise you somehow. Your scent's seeping through. She scanned the shoreline, whiskers twitching. Follow me. The medicine cat apprentice pushed her way among some clumps of grass that grew half in, half out of the water. Here. Before Hollypaw could complain, she scooped up a paw full of brown muck and smeared it over Hollypaw's pelt. Hollypaw gagged. What's that? The goo clung to her fur, sticky and smelly. Otter dung, Willowpaw mewed. It should hide your ThunderClan scent. Hollypaw coughed. You're kidding. You can wash it off later, Hollypaw hissed. Just be quiet and keep still. She smeared another few pawfuls along Hollypaw's flank. Hollypaw began to wish he had never come. Then Willowpaw reared up and scanned the shore on both sides of the lake. Quick! She scrambled across the beach and up onto the tree bridge. Hollypaw followed, swallowing the nausea that rose in her throat at the smell of the otter dung. Are you sure this stuff will disguise me? She hissed as they crossed the bridge. It's so strong I bet ThunderClan can smell me. Certain. Hollypaw leaped down from the tree, crossed the shore, and dived into a forest of reeds. Hollypaw followed, struggling in the soft ground. Mud clung to her legs and coated her belly fur. Willowpaw seemed to be hopping among the clumps of reeds, staying free of the mud. Hollypaw watched her closely and began to follow her path exactly, relieved to find that, so long as she kept to her friend's paw steps, she kept her paws and belly dry. At last the ground became firmer, and Hollypaw felt grass under paw. Willowpaw was leading her up a slope. There were trees here, and the undergrowth grew thick and lush. Hi, thank you for the follow, Wee-wee! The slope grew where was I? She followed Willowpaw as the RiverClan apprentice leaped up and up, using rocks that jutted from the earth to haul herself higher. At last, the two cats clawed their way onto the grassy bank at the top, panting. Thank you! Are you real? I am real. I'm very much real. I have a peanut butter and I guess there's nothing else on it. I have a peanut butter bread right in front of me and an empty iced tea glass. Where are we going? Hollypaw panted. You'll see in a moment. Willowpaw headed up the bank and disappeared into a swath of long grass. Hollypaw hurried after her. Look. Hollypaw had stopped. Willowpaw had stopped, sorry. My voice is AI. I don't know, AI voices don't sound very good sometimes. they're not as have you ever heard like you know that one voice that some TikToks have where it's like I'm I watched the guy talk to the frog. You know, it's like this weird like voice that's like squeaky and funny. Voices could be you're right, you're right. Touche. Touche. Where was I? Okay. Must continue. I gotta continue. You're distracting me, wee wee. The old guy voice creeps me out. There's an old guy voice for TikTok? That'd be funny to hear. I'll have to look that up after. No worries. I'm just teasing. Let's see. Hollypaw crept to her side as Willowpaw gently parted the grass. She peered through. Below them, a wide stream followed the line of the slope. An island rose in the middle, parting the water abruptly so that eddies swirled where the stream was forced to divide. The island was crowded with small trees and bushes, green amid the rolling brown water. That's our old camp, Willowpaw explained. Hollypaw heard a clatter of rocks and stiffened. What's that? The warriors are working. Working? Hollypaw blinked. Suddenly, she spotted the pelts of RiverClan warriors and apprentices weaving through the grass on either side of the stream. On the near side, she recognized the apprentices Pouncepaw and Minnowpaw. They were helping Reed Whisker and Voltooth to shift stones, pushing them towards the stream and tipping them over the edge so they fell with a loud splash into the water. What are they doing? Blocking the stream to make it deeper and wider, Willowpaw replied. Blackclaw, a muscular, broad-shouldered black tom, called from the far side of the stream. Hurry! Grab what you can! He stood near the water's edge, calling orders to warriors who were bravely leaping across the channel with wads of moss bedding dangling from their jaws. We need to rescue as much stuff as we can, Willowpaw explained. The pine needles on the island are no good for making the nests weatherproof. But why are you doing all this? Hollypaw couldn't understand what was going on. The old camp looked safe enough, almost as well protected as the divided stream as ThunderClan was by the cliff and stones. A warning yowl sounded upstream, and Minnowpaw came hurling down the bank. They're coming! Every RiverClan cat instantly dropped whatever they were carrying or pushing and scrambled away from the island, headed towards the lake. Hollypaw's fur bristled. What's the matter? You'll see, Willowpaw mewed. Tramping through the grass along the far side of the stream came a gang of two-legged kits. They were sweeping jagged branches through the grass and mewling loudly to one another. As Hollypaw watched, the largest of the kits hopped from the shore and onto a stone that barely broke the surface of the stream, then onto another and another. Balancing precariously on one leg, it leaned towards the island and began to poke the bushes with its sticks. The other kits yelped their approval and encouraged him by waving their hairless paws in the air. Hollypaw stared at her friend in dismay. Hollypaw lashed her tail. Now do you see why we had to leave? Dang, Two Legs! I have thought about voice acting. I have to practice more though. Do really cool voice warm-ups and stuff. Extend my range. But I really like doing it. Even if it's kind of goofy when I'm just reading like this. Okay, I think I'll do one more chapter. Yes. This is what, yeah, it's like baby's first voice acting, you know? Almost. Voice acting practice. Chapter 13. It was let me start again. It was Blackclaw's idea to push the stones into the stream, Willowpaw explained as they picked their way down the sandy cliff. Hollypaw put her head on one side. But that will stop the water flowing. Exactly, so the stream above gets deeper and wider, and the island will be better protected. Hollypaw was impressed. But will it be enough to keep the two-legged kits away? Once the stream's flooded, we're going to put up a barrier, of course. Willowpaw stopped to catch her breath. The two legs aren't trying to hurt us. I think they're just playing. She bent her head to wash the red sand from her pads. They're like our kids. If we make it too hard for them to get near the island, they'll give up and play somewhere else. And then you can move back to the island, Hollypaw guessed. RiverClan had no intention of moving into WindClan territory. Her paws tingled. She couldn't wait to go back to her own camp until Firestar. WindClan borders were perfectly safe, and they'd have no need to try to take any of ThunderClan's territory. There wasn't going to be a battle after all. Willowpaw bounded down the rest of the slope and wove in among the reeds. Hollypaw hurried after her. But why didn't Leopardstar just tell the other clans what was going on? And look weak because we'd been driven out of our home? But the other clans might have helped. RiverClan can sort out their own problems. Hollypaw lowered her gaze. I didn't mean to say that you couldn't, but... Willowpaw's pout was bristling. It's hard living on the island. There's not enough fish because the boats scare them away, and we can't hunt in the rest of our territory until we get rid of the two-leg kits. The clan is hungry, and hungry warriors don't win battles. Hollypaw remembered Mistyfoot's dull pelt and the way Mothwing's bones jutted out of her hips and along her spine. Do you really think Leopardstar can trust the other clans not to take advantage? Willowpaw went on, pushing her way through the clumps of marsh grass. We need all our strength to rescue our camp from the two-legs. I won't tell ThunderClan that you're hungry, Hollypaw promised. Only that you'll be back in your own camp soon, and there's no reason to think you'll have to leave your territory. Willowpaw blinked gratefully. But first you have to get home, she reminded her. Your clan must be wondering where you are. Hollypaw felt a twinge of guilt. Had her clanmates noticed she was missing yet? I'll just go back the way I came. Willowpaw stretched up on her hind legs and peered above the spiky grass. The shore's quiet, she announced, dropping down onto four paws. She began to weave through the marsh towards the firmer ground inland, where bushes and ferns crowded the shorelines. Let's head up there, Willowpaw suggested. It'll be easier to hide. Her eyes sparkled mischievously, and the otter dung will stop any cats from noticing your scent. Wasn't there anything else you could have used? Tansy might have worked, Willowpaw admitted, but our supplies are a bit low. She pushed her way past the clump of ferns, and Hollypaw padded after her. They followed the shoreline until Hollypaw began to smell the scent of horseplace. We're near the WindClan territory, she whispered. You can leave me here. Willowpaw's eyes clouded with worry. Not until we reach the border. The brown fences around the horseplace loomed larger, and the ferns began to thin out as the lush foliage of RiverClan's territory gave way to WindClan's moorland. Willowpaw paused behind a stunted bramble bush at the edge of a stretch of open grass. There's the border, she pointed with her tail. The wind raced down the moors, tugging at Hollypaw's pelt. She could smell the WindClan scent line only a few fox lengths away. Willowpaw rested her tail tip on Hollypaw's shoulder. Promise you'll be careful. Suddenly, stones clattered on the shore. Willowpaw whipped around. A RiverClan patrol was herring towards them. Hollypaw stiffened, fear shooting through her like lightning. Then she felt Willowpaw's teeth grab her scruff and drag her behind the bramble. Did they see us? Hollypaw whispered, trembling. I don't know. Willowpaw flicked her tail over Hollypaw's mouth. Keep quiet. Hollypaw peered through the leaves. Reed Whisker headed the patrol. His apprentice, Pouncepaw, racing behind him. Voltooth was at Reed Whisker's heels with Minnowpaw at her side. The young she-cat's dappled fur was slicked back by the wind. Her whiskers blown against her cheeks, running as though her life depended on it. Are they hunting? Hollypaw asked. Willowpaw glanced around the empty shore. Hunting what? Well, are they coming for us? Doesn't look like it, Willowpaw replied as the patrol streaked past the brambles without even looking at it. Hollypaw realized that the RiverClan cat's eyes had been stretched wide with terror. Her pelt bristled. Something's wrong. Willowpaw hissed, flattening her ears. Look! Hi, Harley, thank you! A rough-haired black and white dog was hurling after the RiverClan patrol. Its eyes were wide, its lips drawn back to show shiny white fangs. Ugh. The horseplace dog, Willowpaw yowled. Run! She pelted after her clanmates. Before Hollypaw could move, the black and white dog spotted her and skidded towards her, howling with excitement. Hollypaw shrieked and shot after Willowpaw. Thank you! Her claws threw up clods of soil as she tore over the grassy slope. The River Clan patrol had swerved off the beach and was racing up the slope towards the Wind Clan border. Reed Whisker's eyes widened when he saw Willowpaw. Stay near us, he ordered. He raced up the slope, dodging a gorse bush and leaping a low clump of heather. Willowpaw pelted after him. She screeched over her shoulder at Hollypaw. Hurry up! Hollypaw pushed harder against the peaty soil. She skidded after the River Clan cats through a thick swath of heather and out onto the grassy slope. Stop! Rainwhisker gave the command and Hollypaw scrambled to halt with the others. Panting and terrified, she glanced over her shoulder. The dog stood by the fence at the bottom of the slope and gazed around, tongue lolling. Then it shook itself and squeezed under the fence. Hollypaw watched it trot across the field, headed for the two-leg place. It must be going home, she guessed. Shh! Hollypaw gave her a warning look, but it was too late. What are you doing here? Minnowpaw's shocked mew made Hollypaw jump. Reed Whisker stared at her, his black pelt bristling. You're a ThunderClan cat, aren't you? His stern gaze flashed accusingly at Willowpaw. Minnowpaw wrinkled her nose. And why do you smell so bad? Fulltooth padded towards her and leaned in close, his tabby muzzle only a whisker from Hollypaw's. Are you spying on us? Hollypaw backed away. No, I wanted to see if I could help. Help? Reed Whisker stared at her in disbelief. It's true. Willowpaw patted, tail trembling, between her clanmates and Hollypaw. She's here by herself. She was worried about me after the gathering. She just came to see if... Mouse dung! Reed Whisker's yowl cut off Willowpaw. The Black Tom was staring up the slope, his eyes round with dismay. A Wind Clan patrol was streaking towards them. Hollypaw tasted the air. The musky scent of Wind Clan bathed her tongue. The dog had chased them right across the border. Should we run? Minnowpaw whispered, her tail stiff with fear. There's no use. Fulltooth sighed. We've come too far. We'd better just stand our guard. Reed Whisker meowed. Pouncepaw stepped closer to Minnowpaw. As the Wind Clan patrol neared, the deputy, Ashfoot, flicked her tail. Crowfeather, Heatherpaw, Whitetail, Tornear, and Breezepaw fanned out. Hollypaw felt Willowpaw's pelt brush against her flank as the Wind Clan cats slowly encircled the patrol. Their eyes were blazing. What are you doing on Wind Clan land? Ashfoot demanded. Reed Whisker met her gaze, the fur on his shoulders twitching. We were being chased by that mouse-brained dog from the horse place. Crowfeather stepped forward. Where is it now? Fulltooth nodded towards the two-leg place. It went home. And we're meant to believe that, Tornear sniffed the air, his whiskers quivering. All I can smell is dung. Oh, no. Hollypaw wished she could sink into the ground. Wind Clan were angry enough without finding a Thunderclad cat among the intruders. What if they thought River Clan and Thunderclad had formed an alliance? There would be a battle for sure, and it would be all her fault. Hollypaw fought her raising panic. Breezepaw was staring at her. She lowered her gaze, praying he wouldn't recognize her. Finally grateful for the otter dung that disguised her black pelt and drowned her scent. What happened to you? Breezepaw's eyes glittered with contempt. Don't they teach River Clan kits to wash? Rage surged in Hollypaw's throat. She wanted to spit at the arrogant fox face, but at least he didn't seem to know who she was. Get off our land, Ashfoot hissed. You may have lost your own territory, but you're not having ours. Fulltooth bristled, baring his teeth. We have not lost our territory. Then why are you here? Tornear demanded. Looking for prey, Crowfeather hissed. Reed Whisker lashed his tail. No! Hollypaw tensed. Every cat was bristling, ready to leap. She unsheathed her claws. This was not her clan, but she would fight if she had to. Pouncepaw hopped forward, his short tabby tail flicking angrily. We wouldn't eat a rabbit if we were starving. Ashfoot hissed. Get off our land now! Tornear and Whitetail moved apart to let River Clan cats through. Slowly, Reed Whisker and Voltooth began to back away. Pouncepaw and Pebblepaw turned and padded uneasily past the Wind Clan cats. Hollypaw hurried after them, keeping her eyes fixed on the ground. There'll be extra patrols along this border from now on, Ashford called after them. And they'll be battle-ready, Tornear growled. They walked slowly to the border, refusing to be rushed by the threatening hisses from the Wind Clan patrol. Hollypaw crossed the scent line with a shiver of relief. But this isn't my territory. I have to go home, she whispered. Reed Whisker rounded on her. No, you don't. You have to explain what you're doing here. I did explain, Hollypaw retorted. I was worried about Willowpaw. There's no way we're letting you set one paw on Wind Clan territory now, Woltooth mewed. You'll have to come back to the island with us. Despair dropped like a stone in Hollypaw's belly. She gazed across the lake. Night was falling and the ThunderClan forest looked like shadows against the distant hills. She scanned the shoreline, hoping to see the familiar shape of one of her clanmates. J-Paw was always fiddling around by the water, but it was too dark and too far to see anything clearly. Okay, she sighed. But first you can wash off that awful-smelling dung, Reed Whisker ordered. He walked her down to the lake and stood at the edge while she splashed around in the freezing water. Willowpaw waded in to help, rubbing Hollypaw's pelt with her paws until it was clean. Shivering with cold, Hollypaw padded back along the marshy shore with the River Clan patrol. Willowpaw walked beside her. Sorry if I got you in trouble, Hollypaw whispered. It'll be okay. Willowpaw pressed against her, and the two friends, still dripping from the lake, shared their warmth. Hollypaw's pelt prickled under the curious gaze of the River Clan cats as she followed Reed Whisker into the island clearing. Gradually, the camp went quiet as they drew closer to the great oak. She tried to stop her paws from trembling when she saw Leopard Star squeeze out from among the giant roots at the bottom of the oak. Don't be scared, Willowpaw murmured in her ear. Leopard Star's always fair. Hollypaw lifted her chin and faced the River Clan leader as bravely as she could. Leopard Star's eyes glowed in the twilight. Reed Whisker tells me you've been spying on River Clan territory, she accused. I was just trying to help, Hollypaw explained. ThunderClan is worried that Wind Clan will attack us if you're forced into their territory. Everyone's preparing for battle. I just wanted to stop it. Leopard Star blinked. That's a big ambition for such a small apprentice. Offended, Hollypaw fluffed out her fur. Were Leopard Star's whiskers twitching? I presume Willowpaw has shown you enough to put your mind at rest, meowed the River Clan leader. Just the old camp. Hollypaw stopped herself too late. She had betrayed her friend. Leopard Star's gaze flicked to the River Clan medicine apprentice. You took her all the way there. Willowpaw dipped her head. I only wanted to reassure her. Leopard Star sighed. Well, Hollypaw, she meowed, you had better stay here on the island. Hollypaw's heart lurched. But my clan will be worried about me. You should have thought about that before you came here. Leopard Star gazed around her clan. The River Clan cats had gathered under the oak tree, their ears twitching with interest. We can't spare the warriors to escort you home, and even if we could, I don't want you to antagonize Wind Clan or Shadow Clan by crossing their territory. But the warrior code says I can safely travel 2 fox lengths from the length, Hollypaw pointed out. If it was time for a gathering, I would agree, Leopard Star argued. But as things stand, our neighbors would want a very good reason for finding River Clan or ThunderClan scent on their land. She narrowed her eyes. Plain noisiness is not good enough. Noisiness? Nosiness. Plain noisiness isn't enough. But Hollypaw desperately searched for another argument. She had to get home before her clanmates thought something dreadful had happened to her. Leopard Star turned away. You can stay with Mothwing and Willowpaw until it's safe for you to return. Come on, Willowpaw nudged her. Let's get warm and dry in the medicine cave. Paws heavy as stone, Hollypaw followed her friend to the edge of the island and over the causeway to the rocky outcrop. Mothwing was waiting with a pile of herbs beside her. Thought I told you not to be seen, she greeted them. Willowpaw lowered her head. Sorry. Mothwing pawed the herbs towards them. Eat these, she offered. They'll help warm you up. Hollypaw's belly rumbled. She'd prefer a fresh, juicy mouse. It's all we have to spare at the moment, Mothwing told her. Hollypaw leaned down and began to chew on one of the leaves. It was sticky and warmed her tongue as she chewed. What is it? She whispered to Willowpaw. Dried nettles smeared with honey, Willowpaw replied. Not bad. When they had finished eating, Willowpaw led her to a mossy nest at the back of the cave. They washed themselves dry and squeezed together into the soft bedding. Hollypaw was grateful for Willowpaw's warmth. The cave was drafty and rain was starting to batter the rocks and hiss over the lake. She yawned, suddenly feeling bone-tired. You know Leopard Star is just keeping me here because I know too much, she murmured. Yes. Willowpaw laid her tail across her friend's paws. But would Firestar act any differently? Hollypaw sighed. I guess not. She closed her eyes. How long would she have to stay here? She was going to be in big trouble with her clanmates when they found out she was being held by River Clan, suspected of being a spy. Yeah! Woof. I don't think... I just noticed that my chat isn't on the screen at all. Oh. I think I noticed a little too late. Alright, how long is this next chapter? Okay, this is too long. That's too long. Meow 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 meow. All right, guys. I'm not going to be streaming tomorrow, but I will be live tomorrow on Dun's channel. I'll post the link when we're live in the Discord. So if you really want to watch along as I and Dun host a Lethal Company tournament, then please feel free to. It'll be exciting. I don't know how well I'll do, but I think it'll be fun. I think we can have a good like back and forth and stuff. I have some like ideas that I'm gonna like ask him, you know, like real like announcer questions, like, Dun, what was your first experience with the blind dogs? And then Dun will say, I don't know, I can't remember. And I'd be like, me too, Dun. I don't actually know. Let's see. I don't know if we have...
Degenerate with...
Ooh. Have anybody to... raid. Oh my god. Sarah's streaming League of Legends. Holy moly. Art. Hades. Oh my gosh, I've been watching. Let's read Chio. My roommate's been trying to 100% this game for a while. And she's almost done. Uh-oh. I'm disconnected from chat! Okay, now I'm back. Yippee! I'm not sure how many people are actually active right now in my chat, but it's alright because I love you. And Chio will be happy nonetheless. Okay, I'm gonna go to my ending screen now. We'll start streams again on Friday. I'm not sure what I'm gonna play. I kind of feel like trying to see if I can find a really quick game to play in my stream. Like, just to like cross some games off because we have so many. Okay, let's go here. That was a really weird transition. I really need to fix that. Bum bum bum. Be nice to lovely Chio for me.